Nathan Cole pushed open the heavy wooden door of his countryside estate and immediately knew something was wrong. The air smelled different. Not the musty, closed-up scent he expected from a house that had sat empty for 18 months, but something else entirely. Something lived in. Something warm. Cinnamon. Fresh bread. Lavender. His stomach tightened as he stepped inside, his leather shoes clicking against the hardwood floor he'd barely remembered installing 5 years ago. The afternoon light streamed through windows that should have been filmed with dust and neglect, but instead sparkled clean. His eyes moved across the space, taking in details that made his pulse quicken with each passing second. The furniture he'd left draped in white sheets now stood exposed and arranged. His grandmother's quilt, which he'd stored in the upstairs closet, lay folded neatly across the back of the sofa. Fresh flowers, bright yellow daisies, sat in a vase on the side table. The hardwood floors gleamed. Pictures he'd never seen before decorated the walls. Children's drawings. A woman's scarf draped over a chair. A pair of small sneakers by the door. Someone was living in his house. Nathan's breath came faster as anger and confusion warred in his chest. He'd driven 4 hours from the city specifically to escape. To find peace. To be alone. His company was in the middle of a hostile takeover attempt. His board was questioning his decisions. His ex-wife had just announced her engagement in a tabloid magazine. He needed this. This silence. This solitude. This empty house that held no memories of his failures. Instead, he'd found this. He moved deeper into the house, his footsteps deliberate now, his jaw clenched. The living room opened into the kitchen, and that's where the scent of cinnamon grew stronger. A pie sat cooling on the counter. An actual pie. Golden brown crust, steam still rising from the lattice top. Dishes dried in the rack beside the sink. A child's artwork covered the refrigerator, held up by magnets he'd never owned. Hello. His voice came out harder than he'd intended, echoing through the space. Silence answered him. But it was the wrong kind of silence. The kind that held breath. The kind that hid someone listening. Nathan's hands curled into fists at his sides. I know someone's here. This is private property. You're trespassing. A floorboard creaked upstairs. He started for the staircase, his mind racing through possibilities. Squatters. That's what this was. People who'd broken into his property and made themselves at home. He should call the police. He should leave and handle this legally. But something kept him moving forward, climbing the stairs, drawn by a need to understand how this had happened. How his sanctuary had been violated. The creaking came from the second bedroom. The one with the best view of the hills. Nathan approached the doorway and stopped cold. A woman stood in the center of the room, her body positioned protectively in front of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 8 years old. The woman was beautiful, her brown skin smooth and her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a red t-shirt and jeans, simple and clean. Her brown eyes met his with a mixture of fear and fierce determination that made him pause. The little girl peeked around her mother's legs, her own eyes wide and scared. She clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest. Please, the woman said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Please let me explain. Nathan stared at them. At this woman who looked at him like he was the intruder. At this child who trembled but didn't cry. At the room around them that had been transformed from dusty emptiness into a lived-in space. A child's bed with a bright blue comforter. Books stacked neatly on a shelf. Drawings taped to the walls showing stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. You're living in my house. The words came out flat. Stating the obvious. Processing reality. Yes. The woman didn't deny it. Didn't look away. I can explain. I'm Brianna Foster. This is my daughter, Amara. We've been here for 4 months. 4 months. Nathan's mind tried to wrap around that number. 4 months of someone living in his property without his knowledge or permission. 4 months of using his space, his furniture, his utilities. 4 months, he repeated, his voice rising despite his attempt at control. You've been squatting in my house for 4 months. It wasn't like that. Brianna's hand moved to touch her daughter's shoulder, a protective gesture that was both gentle and fierce. When we found this place we thought it was abandoned. Truly abandoned. The grass was overgrown. The mailbox was full of old mail from years ago. The windows were dirty. The inside was covered in dust. There was no sign anyone had been here in a very long time. That doesn't give you the right to break in and live here. Nathan's anger fought with something else. Something uncomfortable. Because looking at this woman and her daughter, he could see they weren't criminals. They weren't malicious. They were scared. I know. Brianna's voice broke slightly. I know it was wrong. But we were desperate. We had nowhere else to go. Amara buried her face against her mother's side, and Nathan saw the child's shoulders shake with silent sobs. The sound, or lack of it, cut through his anger in a way that made him deeply uncomfortable. There are shelters, he said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. There are services. The shelters were full. Brianna's chin lifted, meeting his eyes directly. Do you know what it's like to be turned away from a shelter with your child? To be told there's no room? To sleep in your car in a parking lot while your 8-year-old daughter tries to pretend it's an adventure? To watch her stop smiling because she doesn't understand why you can't keep her safe. Nathan stood silent, the weight of her words settling over the room like a heavy blanket. I lost my job, Brianna continued, her voice gaining strength even as tears gathered in her eyes. I was teaching at a private school. They cut funding. Last hired, first fired. I couldn't make rent. We got evicted. I tried everything. Every job application. Every assistance program. Every friend I had. But nothing came through fast enough. By the time I found work at the diner in town, we'd been living in my car for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Mr. Cole. Nathan Cole. Recognition flickered in Brianna's eyes, but she didn't comment on his name or what it meant. Instead, she kept talking as if she had to get it all out before he stopped her. 3 weeks in a car with a child who needs stability, who needs to go to school, who needs to feel safe. Then I found this place. The door wasn't even locked. The whole house looked like it had been forgotten. Like nobody wanted it anymore. Like maybe, just maybe, we could borrow it for a little while until I got back on my feet. Borrow, Nathan repeated, the word sounding absurd even as he understood the desperation that must have driven it. I know how it sounds. Brianna wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. But I've taken care of it. Look around. I've cleaned everything. Fixed things that were broken. Painted walls that were damaged. I've maintained the garden. I've treated this place like it was precious. Because it is precious. It gave us a roof over our heads. It gave Amara a bedroom and a place to do her homework. It gave us a chance. Nathan looked around the room again, really seeing it this time. The walls were freshly painted in a soft cream color. The hardwood floors gleamed from recent cleaning. The window frames, which he remembered being chipped and peeling, now looked freshly painted. Everything was spotless. Cared for. I'm not a bad person, Brianna said softly. I'm just a mother trying to keep her daughter safe. I know I broke the law by being here. I know you have every right to call the police. But please, before you do, let me show you what we've done. Let me show you that we've treated your home with respect. Amara lifted her face from her mother's side, her cheeks wet with tears. We didn't break anything, she said in a small voice. Mama said we had to be very careful. We had to treat everything like it was special. Nathan looked at this child, at her tear-stained face and her frightened eyes, and felt something crack in his chest. He'd come here looking for peace. Looking for solitude. Looking for an escape from his problems. Instead, he'd found people whose problems made his look trivial. Show me, he said finally. Brianna blinked, surprise crossing her features. What? Show me what you've done. Show me how you've taken care of the place. Have you ever had everything taken from you? Have you ever looked at your child and wondered how you'd keep them safe when you had nothing left to offer? Brianna Foster faced that reality every single day until she found an abandoned house that would change her life forever. But what happens when the owner returns? If this story touches your heart, subscribe to follow Brianna and Nathan's journey. Comment below and tell us what you would do in Nathan's position. Would you show mercy or demand justice? Your thoughts matter to us. Brianna hesitated, clearly uncertain if this was a trick. But then she nodded slowly, taking Amara's hand. Come downstairs. I'll show you. They walked through the house together, and with each room, Nathan's understanding shifted. The bathroom tiles he'd meant to replace but never had? Replaced and grouted perfectly. The leaky faucet in the kitchen? Fixed. The loose railing on the back porch? Secured. The overgrown garden? Transformed into neat rows of vegetables and flowers. I've been working at the Riverside Diner in town, Brianna explained as they stood in the garden, the late afternoon sun warm on their faces. The owner, Mrs. Patterson, she's been kind to me. Gave me shifts even though I didn't have a permanent address. I've been saving every penny I can. I was planning to find a rental. To move out before anyone noticed we were here. I just needed a little more time. Nathan bent down to examine a row of tomato plants, heavy with fruit. How much more time? 2 months. Maybe 3. There's an apartment in town. Small, but it would be ours legally. The landlord said he'd hold it if I could come up with first and last month's rent plus deposit. I'm close. So close. Nathan straightened, looking at this woman who'd broken into his house yet maintained it better than he ever had. Who'd committed a crime yet done so with obvious care and respect. Who'd asked for nothing but time. "Come inside," he said. "We need to talk." They sat at his kitchen table, Amara between them, the child's hand still clutching her stuffed rabbit. The pie Brianna had baked sat in the center of the table, filling the air with its warm scent. "I should call the police," Nathan said and watched Brianna's face fall. "That's what I should do. What anyone would tell me to do. I understand." Brianna's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'll go pack our things. Just please give me an hour. Let me explain to Amara what's happening. Let me do this gently." "I'm not finished," Nathan said, and something in his tone made her look up. "I should call the police. But I'm not going to." The words hung in the air between them. Brianna stared at him, her eyes searching his face for meaning. "What?" "You need 2 to 3 months to save enough for that apartment," Nathan said slowly, thinking through his words even as he spoke them. Stay. Stay here for 3 months. Consider it temporary housing while you save your money." "I don't understand." Brianna shook her head, confusion written across her features. "Why would you do that?" Nathan looked at Amara, at this little girl who'd stopped crying and now watched him with cautious hope in her eyes. "Because you're right. You do need a little more time. And apparently, I have a house I'm not using." The evening sun cast long shadows across the kitchen as Brianna Foster tried to process what Nathan Cole had just offered. 3 months. He was giving them 3 months to stay in his house. The house she'd been squatting in. The house where she'd committed a crime every single day for 4 months. "There have to be conditions," she said finally, her voice careful. Suspicious. Nothing in her life had ever been this simple. This generous. There was always a catch. "What do you want in return?" Nathan leaned back in his chair, his dark blue eyes studying her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. He was handsome, she'd noticed that immediately when she'd first seen him standing in the doorway. Tall, maybe 6 feet, with dark brown hair that was slightly too long, like he'd missed a few haircuts. He wore expensive clothes, dark jeans and a green button-down shirt that probably cost more than she made in a week. But it was his eyes that held her attention. Tired eyes. Eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to rest. "I want the truth," he said. "All of it. I want to understand how you ended up here. How this happened." Brianna glanced at Amara, who was drawing on a piece of paper Nathan had found for her, the child's attention focused on her artwork. "Some of it isn't easy to talk about with her here. Then start with what you can tell me. We'll figure out the rest later." Brianna took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. Where did she even begin? How did she explain the series of decisions and misfortunes that had led a formerly successful teacher to breaking into a stranger's home? "I grew up in Detroit," she started. "My mother raised me alone. She worked 2 jobs to keep us fed and housed. She taught me that education was the way out. The way up. So I studied hard. Got a scholarship to Michigan State. Became a teacher because I wanted to give back. I wanted to help kids who came from backgrounds like mine." Nathan listened without interrupting, his attention focused entirely on her words. "I taught 5th grade at a private school in Grand Rapids for 6 years. I loved it. The kids, the curriculum, everything. I was good at it too. My students' test scores improved. Parents requested me. I thought I'd found my calling." Brianna's voice caught slightly, remembering those days when her life had made sense. When she'd felt successful and secure. Then the school. Lost a major donor. They had to make cuts. I was the newest teacher on staff, so I was let go. They gave me 2 weeks' notice. 2 weeks, Nathan repeated, his brow furrowing. "That's not enough time to find another teaching position." "No, it's not. Especially not mid-year. I tried. I applied to every school within driving distance. But teaching positions don't open up in January. Everyone hires in the summer. I was told to come back in 6 months." Brianna wrapped her hands around the cup of water Nathan had poured for her, needing something to hold. "I couldn't wait 6 months. I had rent due. I had bills. I had Amara to take care of." "What about her father?" Nathan asked, then seemed to catch himself. "Sorry? That's personal." "It's okay." Brianna had expected the question. Everyone always asked about Amara's father. "He left when I was pregnant. Didn't want the responsibility. I haven't heard from him since. It's been just Amara and me from the beginning." "That must have been hard." "Hard doesn't really cover it," Brianna said with a slight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But we managed. We were happy. I had a good job. We had a nice apartment. Amara was in a good school. Everything was working. Until it wasn't." She continued her story, explaining how she'd taken a job at a retail store while searching for teaching positions. How the retail job hadn't paid enough to cover rent and childcare. How she'd fallen behind on bills. How the eviction notice had come just as her car broke down. How everything had collapsed at once, like dominoes falling in a line. I tried to stay with friends, Brianna said, her voice dropping lower. But everyone has their own struggles. Their own families to take care of. After a week on one friend's couch, I could see the strain it was causing. Her husband was getting frustrated. Their kids were confused. I couldn't do that to them. So Amara and I left. And went to your car, Nathan said softly. And went to our car. Brianna nodded, the memory still raw despite months passing. I parked at different places. Walmart parking lots. Rest stops. Anywhere I thought we'd be safe. I'd get Amara ready for school in public restrooms. Pack her lunch with whatever I could afford. Try to make it seem normal. Try to keep her from understanding how bad things really were. Amara looked up from her drawing, her young face serious. I knew, Mama. I knew it was bad. Brianna's eyes filled with tears. Baby, I'm sorry. I tried to protect you from it. I know you did. Amara climbed down from her chair and went to her mother, wrapping her small arms around Brianna's waist. You always keep me safe. Nathan watched this exchange, something shifting in his expression. When Amara returned to her drawing, he spoke again. How did you find this house? I was driving, Brianna explained. Just driving around after my shift at the diner. Mrs. Patterson had just hired me and I was trying to find somewhere we could park that felt safer. Somewhere away from the city. I took a wrong turn down a dirt road and ended up here. The house looked abandoned. Completely forgotten. The grass was so overgrown I could barely see the front porch. The mailbox was falling over. Windows were dirty. There was a foreclosure notice on the door that looked years old. There was no foreclosure notice, Nathan said, confused. This house has been in my family for generations. It's paid off. There's no mortgage. Brianna frowned. There was definitely a notice. That's partly why I thought it was safe to look inside. I thought the bank had taken it and forgotten about it. That happens sometimes with properties in rural areas. Nathan's jaw tightened. Someone must have put that there. Made it look abandoned to keep people away. Or to make squatters think exactly what you thought. Maybe, Brianna agreed. Either way, I saw that notice and I looked through a window. Everything inside was covered with sheets and dust. It really did look like no one had been here in years. The door wasn't locked. It opened when I tried it. So I went inside. With Amara? No. I left her in the car the first time. I needed to make sure it was safe. That there weren't other people here. That it wasn't dangerous. Brianna's voice grew quieter. I walked through every room. Saw all the furniture covered in sheets. Saw how beautiful it was underneath all the dust. Saw the potential. And I thought maybe just for a few nights we could sleep here. In a real bed. With a roof over our heads. Just until I saved enough money for a deposit on an apartment. A few nights turned into 4 months, Nathan observed, but his tone wasn't accusatory. Just stating fact. Yes. Brianna met his eyes. Because it was the first time in months that Amara felt safe. The first time she slept through the night without waking up scared. The first time I could breathe without wondering where we'd go next. I know that doesn't justify what I did. I know it was wrong. But I couldn't leave. Not when I finally had a way to give my daughter some stability. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant. Then he asked, what did you do first? When you decided to stay? I cleaned. Brianna's voice grew stronger as she talked about this part. I cleaned everything. Top to bottom. I removed all the sheets from the furniture and washed them. I scrubbed every surface. I fixed things that were broken. The bathroom tiles were cracked, so I watched videos online and learned how to replace them. The faucet dripped, so I figured out how to fix that too. The garden was a mess, so I cleared it out and planted vegetables because I thought we could use the food. You did all that yourself? Yes. Mrs. Patterson at the diner, she noticed I was good with fixing things. She started giving me extra work, letting me fix stuff in the restaurant for additional pay. That helped. And I wanted to earn my keep here, even if you didn't know we were earning it. I wanted to make this place better than I found it. Nathan stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden Brianna had cultivated. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. You accomplished that. This house looks better than it ever has. Better than when my family owned it and actually lived here. Your family lived here? Brianna asked, surprised. My grandmother. She raised me in this house after my parents died. I was 7. Nathan's voice was distant, remembering. She passed away 5 years ago. Left the house to me. I meant to do something with it. Fix it up. Maybe retire here someday. But I kept putting it off. Work always came first. The company always needed something. Until this place just became another property I owned. Another asset on paper. Something I thought about once a year when the tax bill came. I'm sorry about your grandmother. Nathan turned from the window to face her. She would have liked what you did with her garden. She always said a house isn't a home unless it's growing something. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of their stories settling between them. Then Amara spoke up, her young voice breaking the quiet. Mr. Nathan? Are you really going to let us stay? Nathan looked at this child, at her hopeful eyes and her careful question. Yes, Amara. You can stay. For 3 months. Brianna needed to confirm, needed to hear it again. For 3 months, Nathan agreed. But there are conditions. Brianna tensed. Here it was. The catch she'd been waiting for. What conditions? First, you need to let me pay for the utilities you've been using. Water, electric, internet. I'll set up the accounts in my name again and handle those bills. Nathan held up a hand when Brianna started to protest. This isn't negotiable. You're using them, but they're my responsibility as the homeowner. Brianna wanted to argue but forced herself to nod. Okay. Thank you. Second, I want you to keep doing what you've been doing. Maintain the house. Keep the garden. Take care of the place. Consider it your rent payment. I can do that. Third, Nathan paused, seeming to consider his words carefully. I'm going to stay here too. Brianna's eyes widened. What? This is still my house. I came here to get away from the city for a while. I'm not going to leave just because you're here. But don't worry, he added quickly, seeing the alarm on her face. There's a guest house out back. Small but functional. I'll stay there. You and Amara keep the main house. Are you sure? Brianna asked. This is your property. We're the intruders. We should take the guest house. No. Nathan's voice was firm. Amara needs stability. You said so yourself. Moving her again, even just to a guest house, would disrupt that. You stay in the main house. I'll be fine where I am. Brianna felt tears welling up again, overwhelmed by this stranger's kindness. Why are you doing this? You don't know us. We broke into your house. We've been living here illegally for months. Why would you show us this kind of mercy? Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. Because 6 months ago, I stood at the top of my office building and thought about jumping. The confession hung in the air, stark and raw. Brianna sucked in a breath, her hand moving to her chest. I didn't, Nathan continued, his eyes distant. Obviously. But I came close. Close enough that it scared me. My whole life has been about building the company. Making money. Achieving success. And somewhere along the way I lost track of what any of it meant. Why I was doing it. What the point was. I have more money than I could spend in 5 lifetimes, and I've never been more miserable. Nathan. Brianna didn't know what to say. So I came here looking for answers. Looking for something to remind me why life is worth living. And instead I found you. Found a woman who has nothing but is fighting with everything she has to give her daughter a better life. Found someone who treats a stranger's property with more care than I've ever shown it. Found people who remind me what actually matters. Nathan's eyes focused on Brianna, intense and sincere. So that's why I'm doing this. Because maybe helping you will help me remember how to be human again. Brianna wiped at her tears, her heart full of emotion she couldn't name. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, Nathan said with a slight smile. You might get sick of having me around. I doubt that. Brianna smiled back, genuine and warm. But there's one more thing I need to know. What do we do about food? About expenses? I can't take more from you than you're already giving. We'll figure it out, Nathan said. Maybe we take turns cooking. Maybe we share meals. Maybe we pretend to be normal people sharing a house for a few months and see what happens. Amara piped up again, her voice excited now that the fear had passed. Mama makes the best spaghetti. And chicken. And she can make bread that tastes like clouds. Nathan laughed, the sound surprising him as much as it did Brianna. When was the last time he'd laughed? Really laughed? Bread that tastes like clouds sounds amazing. I can't promise my cooking is anywhere near that good, but I make a decent omelet. Then we have a deal, Brianna said, extending her hand across the table. Nathan took it, shaking firmly. Her hand was smaller than his, rougher from work, but her grip was strong. Certain. We have a deal. As they released hands, Nathan felt something shift inside him. He'd come here looking for solitude, for escape, for peace. Instead, he'd found connection. Found purpose. Found two people who needed him, which meant he wasn't as useless as he'd begun to believe. Maybe this was what his grandmother had meant when she told him all those years ago that the house would take care of him when he needed it most. He'd thought she was talking about shelter, about having a place to return to. But maybe she'd meant something deeper. Maybe she'd known that someday this house would bring him exactly what he needed, even if he didn't know he needed it. "All right," Nathan said, standing. "Let me go check out this guest house and see what condition it's in. You two enjoy your evening. We'll talk more tomorrow about logistics and schedules." "Mr. Nathan?" Amara called as he headed for the door. "Yes. Thank you for not making us leave. Mama cries sometimes at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. But maybe now she won't have to cry anymore." Nathan felt his throat tighten. He looked at Brianna, saw the embarrassment and pain flash across her face at her daughter's words. "Maybe not, Amara. Maybe things are going to get better for all of us." As Nathan walked out to the guest house, the evening air cool against his skin, he felt lighter than he had in months. Maybe years. He'd made an impulsive decision, letting these strangers stay in his house. His lawyers would tell him he was insane. His business partners would question his judgment. His ex-wife would probably laugh and say it proved what she'd always believed, that he had terrible instincts about people. But standing here, looking back at the warm light spilling from the windows of his grandmother's house, seeing the silhouettes of a mother and daughter who'd found shelter under its roof, Nathan knew he'd made the right choice. For once in his life he'd done something that felt real. That felt human. That felt like it mattered beyond profit margins and stock prices. He climbed the steps to the guest house and pushed open the door, unsurprised to find it as well maintained as the main house. Brianna had clearly taken care of this space too, even though she wasn't using it. The small studio was clean, the bed made with fresh sheets, a vase of wildflowers on the small table by the window. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out his phone. 23 missed calls. 46 unread emails. His assistant had sent increasingly frantic messages about meetings he was missing, decisions that needed to be made, fires that needed to be put out. He turned off the phone. For the first time in his adult life, Nathan Cole chose people over profit. Chose presence over productivity. Chose to stay exactly where he was, in a guest house on a property he'd forgotten he owned, sharing space with a woman and child who'd reminded him what courage really looked like. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Tomorrow they'd have to figure out how three strangers would share a property, how they'd navigate the awkwardness and the logistics. Tomorrow he'd have to deal with his company, his responsibilities, his life back in the city. But tonight, Nathan simply lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling, feeling at peace for the first time in longer than he could remember. Tonight he'd done something good. Something right. Something his grandmother would have been proud of. And that, he thought as sleep finally claimed him, was enough. The next morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through the guest house windows, waking Nathan earlier than he'd woken in months. Not because of an alarm or a phone call or the weight of impending meetings, but because actual sunlight had reached him. In his penthouse apartment in the city, blackout curtains kept his bedroom in perpetual darkness. He'd thought he preferred it that way. Now, blinking in the natural light, Nathan realized how much he'd missed mornings. Real mornings. The kind that started gently instead of urgently. He could smell coffee. Nathan pulled on jeans and a blue t-shirt, running his fingers through his hair in a half-hearted attempt at grooming, then made his way to the main house. The back door was unlocked and he found Brianna in the kitchen, already dressed in her diner uniform, her hair pulled back neatly. She looked up as he entered, her expression cautious. "Good morning," she said. "I made coffee. I hope that's okay. I used some of the supplies I bought, but if you prefer different coffee, I can." "Brianna," Nathan interrupted gently. "You don't have to ask permission to use the coffee. Or anything else. We talked about this last night. This is your home for the next 3 months." She nodded, but he could see the discomfort in her eyes. The uncertainty about boundaries. They were going to have to figure out how to navigate this strange living arrangement, and clearly, it wasn't going to happen overnight. "Thank you for the coffee," Nathan said, pouring himself a cup. "It smells amazing." "It's just regular coffee from the store," Brianna said, scrambling eggs at the stove. "Nothing fancy. Still better than what I usually drink." Nathan took a sip, savoring the warmth. "I have one of those expensive machines in my apartment that makes coffee from pots. Costs a fortune. Tastes like cardboard." That earned him a small smile. "I've never understood those machines. Why make coffee complicated? To make it feel like you're doing something sophisticated when really you're just pushing a button, Nathan said, surprising himself with the honesty. That's most of my life actually. Complicated systems to mask simple realities. Brianna glanced at him, curiosity in her eyes, but she didn't press. Instead she asked, "Have you had breakfast?" "I'm making eggs for Amara before she catches the school bus." "The school bus comes here?" Nathan was surprised. "Yes. I registered her at the local elementary school about a month after we moved in. Use this address." "I know I shouldn't have, but she needed to be in school. She'd already missed too much." "No, that's good. That's the right thing to do." Nathan watched as Brianna plated the eggs, adding toast and some fruit. "And yes, I'd love some breakfast. If you don't mind." "I don't mind." They settled into an easy rhythm, Brianna cooking while Nathan set the table. When Amara appeared, still sleepy and wearing a green dress with bright yellow flowers, her face lit up at seeing Nathan. "Mr. Nathan, are you having breakfast with us?" "If that's all right with you," Nathan said. "It's very all right." Amara climbed into her chair, her earlier shyness from the previous night completely gone. Children were resilient that way, Nathan thought. Adults carried grudges and fears and suspicions. Children simply accepted new realities and moved forward. They ate together, the conversation flowing more naturally than Nathan expected. Amara chattered about her school, about her teacher Mrs. Henderson, about the spelling bee coming up next month. Brianna added details here and there, her pride in her daughter evident in every word. "I used to be really good at spelling bees," Nathan mentioned. "Made it to the state finals when I was in 6th grade. Amara's eyes went wide. "Really? What word did you get out on?" "Prestidigitation." "What does that mean?" "Magic tricks. Sleight of hand. The kind where someone makes coins disappear and reappear behind your ear." "That's a silly word for magic tricks," Amara giggled. "I agree. That's why I spelled it wrong. Too busy thinking about how silly it was to focus on the actual letters." Brianna laughed, the sound bright and genuine. "I can see young Nathan, overthinking a spelling bee." "Young Nathan overthought everything," Nathan admitted. Old Nathan too, for that matter. The school bus horn honked from the road and Amara jumped up, grabbing her backpack. Brianna walked her to the door, kissing her forehead and reminding her to have a good day. Nathan watched this morning routine, this simple moment of a mother sending her child to school, and felt an unexpected pang of longing. For what, he wasn't entirely sure. Family? Normalcy? A life that measured success in good days instead of closed deals? After Amara left, Brianna cleaned up the breakfast dishes quickly, efficient and practiced. "I need to leave for my shift in about 20 minutes. I work from 8 to 4 today. Amara gets home at 3:15, so she'll be here alone for about 45 minutes. She knows to lock the door and not answer it for anyone. She has a phone I got from a prepaid service so she can call me if there's any problem." "I'll be here," Nathan said. Brianna paused, a dish in her hand. "What?" "I'll be here when she gets home. You don't need to worry about her being alone." "Nathan, you don't have to do that. She's used to the routine. She'll be fine." "I know she'll be fine. But I'll be here anyway. Working from the guest house. If she needs anything, I'm available." Nathan met her eyes. "Let me help, Brianna. That's part of why I'm staying. Not just to occupy a space but to actually be useful." Brianna stared at him for a long moment, emotions warring across her face. Then slowly she nodded. "Okay, thank you. That would make me feel better, knowing she's not alone." After Brianna left for work, Nathan spent the morning setting up a temporary office in the guest house. He'd brought his laptop and some files, thinking he'd need to stay connected to the company. But sitting there, looking at emails about quarterly projections and market analyses, Nathan found he couldn't summon the energy to care. Instead, he walked the property. Really walked it for the first time in years. The land stretched over 10 acres, mostly woods and fields his grandmother had left wild. Brianna's garden took up maybe a quarter acre near the house, neat rows of tomatoes, peppers, lettuce and herbs. Beyond that, wildflowers grew in colorful patches, and a small stream ran along the back of the property. Nathan remembered playing by that stream as a child. Building dams with rocks. Catching minnows in an old coffee can. His grandmother sitting on the bank, reading a book and occasionally looking up to make sure he hadn't drowned himself. Simple days. Happy days. When had he stopped appreciating simple happiness? At 3:15 Nathan heard the school bus. He walked up to the main house to find Amara bouncing off the bus, her backpack nearly as big as she was. Her face brightened when she saw him on the porch. "Mr. Nathan. Mama said you'd be here." "I said I would be. How was school? It was good. We learned about fractions and math and I got all the problems right. And Mrs. Henderson said my book report was excellent. Want to see it? Nathan spent the next hour listening to Amara talk about her day, looking at her schoolwork, helping her with homework. She was bright, this little girl. Sharp and curious and full of questions. She'd inherited her mother's determination, that was clear. But she had a lightness to her too, a joy that Brianna seemed to have lost somewhere along the way. When Brianna came home, tired and smelling faintly of the diner's fryer oil, she found Nathan and Amara in the garden, harvesting tomatoes. Mama? Amara ran to her. Mr. Nathan taught me the right way to pick tomatoes so we don't hurt the plant. And he said we can make sauce this weekend if we pick enough. Brianna looked at Nathan, surprise and something softer in her expression. You don't have to do that. I'm sure you have other things to do this weekend. Actually, I don't, Nathan said, standing and brushing dirt from his jeans. And I've been craving homemade tomato sauce. My grandmother used to make it every summer. Canned it in jars that we'd eat all winter. I'd love to learn how to do that again. I can teach you, Brianna said softly. If you really want to learn. I really do. That night, Brianna insisted on cooking dinner for all of them, a thank you for Nathan watching Amara. She made chicken with roasted vegetables from the garden, simple but delicious. They ate together at the kitchen table, and Nathan couldn't remember the last time he'd enjoyed a meal more. This is incredible, he said around a mouthful of chicken. Seriously, Brianna. This is better than any restaurant I've been to in the city. It's just chicken, Brianna said, but she looked pleased. It's not just chicken. It's love and attention and actual care about the food you're preparing. That's rare. After dinner they fell into an easy pattern. Brianna cleaned the kitchen while Nathan helped Amara with a craft project for school. Then Amara went to take a bath, and Nathan found himself alone with Brianna again. You're good with her, Brianna said, drying the last dish. With Amara. You have a natural way with children. I'm just talking to her like she's a person, Nathan said. Which she is. A very smart person who happens to be 8 years old. Not everyone sees it that way. Most people talk down to kids. Oversimplify things. You don't do that. Nathan shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. My grandmother never talked down to me. Even when I was very young. She'd explain things in terms I could understand, but she never made me feel less than. Never made me feel like my thoughts and questions didn't matter. I'm just doing what she taught me. She sounds like she was a wonderful woman. She was. I wish you could have met her. I think you two would have gotten along. Brianna smiled at that, the expression transforming her face. In the soft kitchen light, with the stress of the day fading, she looked younger. Lighter. Beautiful in a way that made Nathan's breath catch slightly. He looked away, reminding himself of boundaries. Reminding himself that this woman was here because she needed help, not because she wanted complications. He was her temporary landlord, nothing more. Getting confused about that would be a mistake. I should head back to the guest house, Nathan said, standing. Let you and Amara have your evening routine. Nathan, Brianna's voice stopped him. Thank you. For today. For being here for Amara. For cooking dinner with us. For all of it. I know this situation is strange. I know you're being far kinder than you need to be. But it means everything. To both of us. You're welcome, Nathan said simply. Because what else could he say? That spending the day with them had been the best day he'd had in years? That watching Amara's excitement over fractions had reminded him what enthusiasm looked like? That sitting at dinner with them had felt more like home than his expensive apartment ever had? He couldn't say those things. Not yet. Maybe not ever. So he simply smiled, said goodnight, and walked back to the guest house under a sky full of stars he'd forgotten existed above the city lights. Inside, he picked up his phone for the first time since breakfast. 73 new emails. 15 missed calls. His assistant had sent a message marked urgent, asking where he was and when he'd be back in the office. Nathan typed a simple response, taking a leave of absence. Michael can handle anything urgent. I'll be in touch in a few weeks. Then he turned off the phone again and lay back on the bed, listening to the night sounds outside his window. Crickets. An owl. The rustle of wind through leaves. Sounds his grandmother would have called the earth breathing. Nathan fell asleep smiling, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Wondering how three strangers would continue navigating this unexpected arrangement. Wondering when he'd stopped feeling like a stranger to himself. The days that followed settled into a comfortable rhythm. Brianna worked at the diner, Nathan worked remotely from the guest house on the projects that actually interested him, and Amara went to school. Evenings they'd often share dinner, taking turns cooking. Weekends, they'd work in the garden together, Nathan learning from Brianna while Amara played or helped with smaller tasks. Nathan found himself looking forward to these shared moments. To Amara's questions about his work, which forced him to explain complex technology in simple terms. To Brianna's quiet competence in the kitchen, the way she moved with efficiency and grace. To the way the house felt alive again, filled with voices and laughter and the kinds of small domestic sounds he'd never appreciated before. One evening, about 2 weeks into their arrangement, Nathan was helping Amara with her math homework when Brianna appeared in the doorway, still in her uniform but looking troubled. "Everything okay?" Nathan asked. "Mrs. Patterson at the diner, she's been so good to me," Brianna began. "But today she mentioned that business has been slow. That she might need to cut some hours. Not fire anyone, just reduce shifts." Nathan saw the worry in her eyes. Fewer hours meant less money. Less money meant the timeline for getting her own apartment would stretch even longer. "How many hours are we talking about?" he asked. "Maybe 10 hours a week. She hasn't decided yet. She said she'd let me know next week." "What if you had another job?" Nathan said, the idea forming as he spoke. "Something here?" "Here?" Brianna frowned, confused. "I need a property manager. Someone to maintain this place, handle the garden, make sure everything stays in good condition. Someone to manage contractors if repairs need to be made. Someone to—" Nathan paused, making sure this came out right. "Someone to treat this house the way it deserves to be treated. The way you've already been treating it." "Nathan, you don't need to do this. I'm not doing anything except hiring someone good for a job that genuinely needs doing," Nathan said firmly. "I live 4 hours away. I can't maintain this property remotely. I've been neglecting it for years. You've proven you can not only maintain it but improve it. This is a real job offer, Brianna. With real pay. Fair market rate for property management in this area. I've already looked it up." Brianna stared at him, her eyes swimming with tears. "You looked it up?" "This afternoon. When I realized I should have offered you this 2 weeks ago." Nathan pulled out his phone, showing her the notes he'd made. "This is what similar positions pay. This is what I'm offering. Plus, I'll cover your health insurance, since you mentioned the diner doesn't offer benefits. And you can keep your shifts at the diner for as long as you want them, or reduce them if you prefer. This job is flexible. You work when you can around Amara's schedule." "I don't know what to say." "Say yes, please. Accept this without second-guessing it. Accept that sometimes, people genuinely want to help because it's the right thing to do." "Yes." Brianna's voice broke. "Yes, I accept. Thank you." Amara jumped up from her homework, running to hug Nathan's legs. "Does this mean we get to stay longer? Does this mean Mama doesn't have to worry so much?" Nathan looked at Brianna over Amara's head, seeing the relief and gratitude and something else in her eyes. Something that made his heart beat faster. "Yes, Amara," he said softly. "That's exactly what it means." That night, after Amara was asleep and Brianna had returned to the kitchen to finish cleaning up, Nathan found her standing at the sink, staring out the window at the darkened garden. "You didn't have to do this," she said without turning around. "I know. Why are you being so kind to us?" Nathan came to stand beside her, looking out at the same view. "Because kindness is free and I have everything else. Because you remind me that taking care of people matters more than taking care of business. Because Amara deserves to see her mother smile without worry behind it. Because—" He paused, searching for the right words. "Because for the first time in years I feel like I'm doing something that actually matters." Brianna turned to look at him, tears sliding down her cheeks. "You're a good man, Nathan Cole." "I'm trying to be," he said honestly. "Some days I'm not sure I succeed. But being here with you and Amara, it makes me want to try harder." They stood there in the quiet kitchen, the space between them charged with unspoken emotions. Then Brianna did something unexpected. She hugged him. Just wrapped her arms around his waist and held on, her face pressed against his chest. Nathan froze for a moment, then carefully returned the embrace, his arms coming around her shoulders. She fit perfectly there, he noticed. Like this moment had been waiting to happen. "Thank you," she whispered against his shirt. "Thank you for saving us." "You saved yourselves," Nathan said softly. "I just provided a house." They stood like that for a long moment, neither wanting to let go. When they finally separated, both were smiling, the air between them different now. Warmer. Fuller of possibility. "I should let you get some rest," Nathan said. "You have an early shift tomorrow." "Nathan." Brianna called as he reached the door. "Yes. I'm glad you came home when you did. I'm glad you found us here." Nathan smiled. So am I, Brianna. So am I. Walking back to the guest house, Nathan realized something fundamental had shifted. This wasn't just a temporary arrangement anymore. This wasn't just him being kind to strangers who needed help. This was something deeper. Something real. Something that felt like it might change everything if he let it. The question was, should he let it? Could he? Did he deserve this kind of connection after spending so many years focused solely on his own success? Nathan didn't have answers yet. But as he fell asleep that night for the first time in his adult life, he wasn't worried about tomorrow's meetings or next quarter's profits. He was simply excited to wake up and see what the next day would bring. Excited to have breakfast with Amara. Excited to work in the garden with Brianna. Excited to be part of something that felt like family, even if they weren't one by traditional definitions. Maybe that was enough. Maybe simple excitement about simple days was the answer he'd been searching for all along. 3 weeks into their shared living arrangement, Nathan woke to the sound of hammering. He checked his watch, 6 in the morning. The sun was barely up. He pulled on clothes and walked to the main house, following the sound to the back porch where Brianna stood on a ladder, hammer in hand, replacing loose boards. "You're up early," he called up to her. Brianna startled, nearly dropping her hammer. "Nathan. I'm sorry, did I wake you? I was trying to be quiet." "You were quiet. I'm just a light sleeper." Nathan studied the porch boards, noting which ones she'd already replaced. "You could have asked me to help with this." "It's my job now," Brianna said, climbing down from the ladder. "Property manager, remember? Besides, I've been meaning to fix this porch for weeks. Finally got the right materials." "Where did you get the wood?" "I told Mr. Harrison at the hardware store in town that I was working on a repair project. He gave me a good price." Brianna set down her hammer, wiping sweat from her forehead. She wore an old red t-shirt and work jeans, her hair tied back with a bandana. "Actually, that's something I wanted to talk to you about. This house needs more than just the porch fixed." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "How much more?" "Come on, I'll show you." Over the next hour, Brianna walked Nathan through every issue she'd identified in the house. The roof had some missing shingles. One bathroom had water damage behind the wall that needed addressing before it got worse. Several windows had broken seals and needed replacing. The fence around the property was falling down in places. The guest house needed a new water heater. "I've been making a list," Brianna explained, showing him a notebook filled with detailed notes and sketches. "Prioritized by what's urgent versus what can wait. I've also been getting quotes from local contractors for things I can't do myself. But I wanted to check with you before scheduling anything." Nathan flipped through the notebook, impressed by the thoroughness. Brianna had noted not just the problems but potential solutions, estimated costs, and even recommendations for which contractors seemed most reliable based on her research. "This is incredibly detailed work," he said. "I told you I take this job seriously. This house has been good to us. It deserves to be taken care of properly. Then let's take care of it." Nathan pulled out his phone. "Send me the contractor information. Schedule whatever needs to be done. Don't worry about the cost. Just make sure it's done right. Nathan, some of these repairs are expensive. The roof alone is going to be several $1,000s. Brianna, I own a tech company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. A few thousand for a roof isn't going to break me. Fix whatever needs fixing. Make this house beautiful again. That's your job now." Brianna bit her lip, clearly struggling with accepting such a large expense. "Are you sure?" "I'm absolutely sure. In fact, if there's anything you want to improve beyond just repairs, let me know. My grandmother always talked about wanting to renovate the bathrooms, but she never got around to it. If you have ideas, I'd love to hear them. Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need." Over the following days, Nathan watched Brianna transform into a confident property manager. She scheduled contractors, supervised repairs, made decisions about materials and finishes. She consulted with Nathan on major choices, but he quickly learned to trust her judgment. Her taste was impeccable, and she had a knack for finding quality work at reasonable prices. The contractors she hired were local people who clearly respected her. Nathan overheard one roofer telling Brianna that she should consider getting licensed as a contractor herself, that she had a better eye for construction than half the professionals he knew. "Have you ever thought about that?" Nathan asked her one evening as they watched the sunset from the newly repaired porch. Amar was inside doing homework. "Becoming a contractor? Going into property management professionally?" "Sometimes," Brianna admitted. "But it would require training, certification, startup capital. Things I can't afford right now." "What if you could afford them?" Brianna gave him a look. "Nathan, I'm serious. You're good at this. Really good. If this is something you want to pursue, I can help with the education costs. Consider it an investment in my property manager. I can't let you pay for my education. Why not? Companies pay for employee training all the time. This is no different. This is completely different and you know it. Nathan did know it. But he also knew that Brianna had dreams she'd set aside when life got hard. Dreams that deserved a chance to come back to life. Just think about it, he said. No pressure. But the offer stands if you want it. Their conversation was interrupted by Amara calling from inside. Mama. Mr. Nathan. Come quick. There's a cat on the porch. They rushed inside to find Amara at the front door, pointing excitedly at a scraggly orange cat sitting on the welcome mat. The cat looked thin and ragged, clearly a stray. Can we keep him? Amara asked immediately. Please? He looks hungry and sad. Baby, we can't just keep a random cat, Brianna started. Actually, Nathan interrupted, my grandmother always had cats. Said a house in the country needed cats to keep the mice away. I've been thinking about getting one. Amara's face lit up. Really? Really? If your mom says it's okay. Brianna gave Nathan a look that said she knew exactly what he was doing, but she couldn't say no with Amara looking at her with such hope. Fine. But the cat lives outside. And we need to take it to the vet first, make sure it's healthy. Yes. Amara pumped her fist in the air. The next day, Nathan took Amara to the vet while Brianna was at work. The cat, which Amara had immediately named Ginger, turned out to be healthy aside from being underweight. The vet confirmed it was a male, probably about 2 years old, and had clearly been living rough for a while. He's friendly though, the vet noted as Ginger purred under her examination. Someone socialized him at some point. He didn't start out as a feral. They left with Ginger vaccinated, microchipped, and equipped with a collar that had Nathan's phone number on it. Amara insisted on buying the cat a bed, toys, and the best food in the store. This is a lot of stuff for an outside cat, Nathan observed as they loaded bags into his car. He needs to know we love him, Amara said seriously. So he doesn't leave. Nathan's throat tightened at the simple wisdom in those words. Doesn't everyone need to know they're loved so they don't leave? How many relationships had he lost because he'd never learned how to show people they mattered to him? When they got home, Brianna was already back from her shift. She took one look at the bags of supplies and shook her head, smiling. You two are going to spoil that cat. That's the plan, Nathan agreed. Ginger settled into life on the property with ease. He'd appear on the porch each morning for breakfast, accept pets from Amara before school, then disappear into the woods to do whatever cats did during the day. By evening, he'd return for dinner and more attention before finding a spot on the porch to sleep. Nathan found himself appreciating the cat's presence more than he'd expected. There was something calming about a small creature who wanted nothing more than food, affection, and a safe place to sleep. Simple needs simply met. You're getting attached, Brianna observed one evening watching Nathan scratch Ginger behind the ears. Maybe a little, Nathan admitted. There's something peaceful about him. He doesn't want anything from me except basic kindness. No agenda. No expectations beyond the obvious. Sounds like you've dealt with a lot of people who wanted things from you. That's most people when you have money, Nathan said. Everyone wants something. Investment in their startup. Donations to their cause. Connections to other wealthy people. It gets exhausting, constantly wondering if someone values you or just your bank account. Brianna was quiet for a moment, then said softly, for what it's worth, Amara and I valued you before we knew you had money. When you walked in that first day, I didn't recognize you. Didn't know you were some billionaire CEO. I just saw a man whose house we'd invaded. A man who had every right to call the police and didn't. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, in the fading evening light. You never asked me what I do. Never looked me up online. Why not? Because it doesn't matter what you do. What matters is who you are. And who you are is someone kind. Someone patient. Someone who eats breakfast with an 8-year-old and listens to her talk about spelling tests like it's the most important thing in the world. Someone who watches a woman fix his porch and doesn't feel threatened by her competence. That's who you are, Nathan. The rest is just details. Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. When was the last time someone had seen him? Really seen him? Not Nathan Cole, the CEO. Not Nathan Cole, the billionaire. Just Nathan. A man trying to figure out how to be human again. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing me. For not wanting anything from me except basic decency. For reminding me that simple kindness is valuable. Brianna smiled, and in that smile, Nathan saw something that made his heart race. Something warm and genuine and possibly something more than friendship. But before he could examine that thought too closely, Amara called from inside. "Mama, I finished my homework. Can we make cookies?" "Of course, baby." Brianna stood, breaking the moment. "You want to help, Nathan?" "I'd love to." They spent the evening in the kitchen making chocolate chip cookies from scratch. Nathan learned that Brianna had a gift for baking, that she could eyeball measurements and adjust recipes on the fly. Amara proved to be an enthusiastic if messy helper, getting flour everywhere and sneaking chocolate chips when she thought no one was looking. "This is nice," Amara said as they waited for the first batch to bake, the kitchen filled with sweet warmth. "Like we're a real family." Brianna's hands stilled on the mixing bowl. Nathan saw pain flash across her face, the reminder that they weren't a family, just three people sharing space temporarily. "We are a family," Nathan said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. Maybe not a traditional one. But family isn't always about biology. Sometimes it's about who shows up, who stays, who makes cookies together on a random weeknight because it's fun. Amara beamed at him. "So you're like my pretend dad?" "Amara," Brianna said sharply. "That's not appropriate." "Why not?" Amara's face fell. "Mr. Nathan is nice. He helps me with homework and buys supplies for Ginger and makes me laugh. Isn't that what dads do?" Nathan knelt down to Amara's level, his heart aching at the hope in her young face. "Your mom is right that I'm not your dad. But I can be your friend. A really good friend who cares about you and wants good things for you. Is that okay?" Amara thought about this seriously, then nodded. "That's okay. Can really good friends have cookies together?" "Absolutely." Later, after Amara had gone to bed and Nathan was helping Brianna clean up the kitchen, she apologized. "I'm sorry about what she said. About the dad thing. She doesn't understand boundaries yet." "Don't apologize." She was expressing what she feels. "That's healthy. But it puts you in an awkward position. You didn't sign up to be anyone's father figure." Nathan paused in washing a mixing bowl, considering his response carefully. "No, I didn't sign up for that. But I also didn't sign up for most of what's happened here. I didn't sign up for finding you in my house. I didn't sign up for eating breakfast with you every morning or helping with homework or adopting a stray cat. But all of those things have made my life better. Richer. More meaningful. So if Amara sees me as a positive male presence in her life, I'm honored. Not burdened." Brianna's eyes filled with tears. "You keep saying things like that. Things that make it hard to remember this is temporary. That in a few months, Amara and I will be in our own place and you'll go back to the city and all of this will just be a strange period in all our lives. Does it have to be that way?" Nathan heard himself ask. "What do you mean? I mean, does this have to be temporary? Does me helping you have to have an expiration date? Can't we just see where this goes without putting a timeline on it?" Brianna stared at him, her hands frozen on the dish towel. "Nathan, I don't understand what you're asking." "I'm not sure I do either," Nathan admitted. "I'm just saying that maybe we don't need to decide everything right now. Maybe we just keep doing what we're doing and see what happens." "That sounds like a recipe for someone getting hurt," Brianna said softly. "Maybe. Or maybe it's a recipe for something good. Something real. Something neither of us planned but both of us need." They stood in the kitchen, the air between them heavy with possibility and fear. Then Brianna did something brave. She crossed the space between them and took his hand. "Okay," she said. "We'll see where this goes. No timelines. No predetermined endings. Just this. Whatever this is." Nathan squeezed her hand, relief flooding through him. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm terrified." "So am I," Nathan confessed. "But maybe being terrified together is better than being safe and alone." Brianna laughed, the sound watery but genuine. "When did you become a philosopher?" "When I met a woman who broke into my house and made me remember what actually matters in life." They stood there for another moment, hands linked, neither quite ready to let go. Then Brianna squeezed his hand once and released it. "Go get some sleep. Tomorrow the new roof goes on, and I need you to sign off on the final materials." "Yes, boss," Nathan said with a smile. Walking back to the guest house, Nathan felt lighter than he had in years. He'd taken a risk tonight, saying out loud that he wanted this arrangement to continue indefinitely. Admitting that these two people had become important to him. Allowing himself to hope for something beyond business success and financial achievement. It was terrifying. But it was also exhilarating. And as he fell asleep that night, Nathan realized he was happy. Genuinely, simply happy. When was the last time he could say that? He couldn't remember. which meant this moment, this feeling, was precious beyond measure. Worth protecting. Worth fighting for if it came to that. The question was, what would happen when the rest of his life came calling? When his company demanded his attention? When his board insisted he return to the city? When reality intruded on this peaceful bubble they'd created? Nathan didn't have answers. But for the first time in his life he knew what he wanted. He wanted this. These people. This place. This feeling of being needed for who he was, not what he had. Now he just had to figure out how to keep it. The package arrived on a Thursday morning, delivered by a postal worker who looked confused to find anyone home at the abandoned property. Nathan signed for it, recognizing his assistant's handwriting on the label. Inside he found his laptop, files, and a note. The board is asking questions. Michael can't stall them forever. Call me. Jennifer. Nathan set the box aside without opening it further and went to find Brianna, who was in the garden harvesting the last of the season's tomatoes. The morning sun caught in her hair and she was humming something while she worked. Nathan stopped for a moment just to watch her, this woman who'd somehow become the center of his new life without either of them quite meaning for it to happen. Jennifer sent you your laptop, Brianna said without looking up. She had an uncanny ability to sense when he was near. I heard the delivery truck. I'm not opening it. Nathan. Brianna straightened, concern in her eyes. You can't avoid your company forever. I'm not avoiding it. I'm just choosing not to let it consume every waking moment like it used to. There's a difference. Is there though? Or are you running from something you'll eventually have to face? Nathan came to sit beside her in the dirt, not caring about the expensive jeans he was wearing. Maybe I'm running. But maybe I needed to run. Maybe I needed to get far enough away to see clearly what my life had become. And what I saw wasn't pretty. What did you see? A man who'd built an empire but couldn't remember why. A man who'd sacrificed every relationship, every personal connection, every moment of joy in pursuit of success that felt hollow the moment it was achieved. A man who stood on top of a building and thought about stepping off because nothing seemed worth staying for. Nathan pulled up a tomato plant that had finished producing, shaking dirt from its roots. That man needed to run, Brianna. He needed to find something real before it was too late. Brianna was quiet for a long moment, then said, and did he? Find something real? Yes. Nathan looked at her directly. He found a woman who treats a stranger's house like a treasure. He found a child who reminds him that joy exists in small moments. He found a life that means something beyond quarterly earnings and stock prices. Nathan. I know what you're going to say. That this is temporary. That eventually I'll have to go back. That my real life is waiting for me in the city. But what if this is my real life? What if everything else was just marking time until I found this? That's a beautiful thought, Brianna said softly. But you have responsibilities. A company that employs people. Investors who depend on your decisions. You can't just walk away from all of that. I'm not walking away. I'm restructuring. Making changes so I can have both. The company and this. My work in this life. Success and happiness. Nathan took her hand, dirt and all. I can do both, Brianna. I just need to want to do both. And being here with you and Amara, I finally want to. Brianna's eyes filled with tears. You keep saying things like that. Things that make me believe in possibilities I shouldn't believe in. Why shouldn't you believe in them? Because believing leads to hoping. And hoping leads to hurting when things don't work out. I've learned to be careful with my hopes, Nathan. I've learned that life doesn't usually give you fairy tale endings. What if this time it does? Nathan brushed a tear from her cheek. What if this time you get the happy ending you deserve? I don't deserve anything, Brianna said, her voice breaking. I broke into your house. I lied about my address. I've been taking your kindness and your help and your care, and I haven't given you anything in return. You've given me everything, Nathan said fiercely. You've given me purpose. You've given me a reason to wake up excited about the day. You've given me Amara's laughter and your strength and a home that feels alive again. How can you think that's nothing? Brianna looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted in her expression. Something vulnerable and scared and hoping despite her fear. I don't know how to do this. How to let someone help me without waiting for the other shoe to drop. Without expecting it all to fall apart. Then let me teach you. Let me show you that not everyone leaves. Not everything ends badly. Some things, some people, they stay. They sat there in the garden, hands clasped, hearts opening despite the fear. And then Brianna did something brave. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was gentle, barely more than a brush of lips. But it felt like everything. Like every risk she'd ever been afraid to take. Like trust given and received. Like possibility and promise and hope all wrapped into one small moment. When they pulled apart, both were smiling through tears. Was that okay? Brianna asked, suddenly uncertain. That was perfect, Nathan said. Can we do it again? This kiss was deeper, more certain. Nathan's hand came up to cup her face, feeling the softness of her skin against his palm. Brianna's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. They kissed like two people who'd been holding back for too long, like dam finally breaking and all that restrained emotion flooding through. When they finally separated, breathless and stunned, Ginger the cat was sitting nearby, watching them with what seemed like feline judgment. Even the cat thinks we're ridiculous, Brianna laughed, wiping at her eyes. The cat is just jealous he's not getting attention, Nathan said, scratching Ginger's ears. Aren't you, buddy? We should probably talk about this, Brianna said, gesturing between them. About what just happened. About what it means. It means I have feelings for you, Nathan said simply. Real feelings. The kind that make me want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. The kind that make me imagine futures that include you and Amara permanently. Is that too much? Too fast? Probably, Brianna admitted. But I have those feelings too. I've been trying to keep things professional and proper, but I have them anyway. You've become important to me, Nathan. To both of us. More important than is probably wise. Why isn't it wise? Because you're you and I'm me. Because you're a billionaire CEO and I'm a single mother who was homeless 4 months ago. Because our worlds don't make sense together. Our worlds make perfect sense together, Nathan countered. You've been living in my world for weeks now. Working on my property, eating meals with me, sharing space and time and conversation. Has any of that felt like we don't fit? No, Brianna admitted. It's felt natural. Like maybe we were supposed to find each other. Then trust that feeling. Trust that maybe the universe knew what it was doing when it led you to this house. When it brought us together in the most unlikely way possible. You believe in the universe having plans? I believe in this, Nathan said, taking her hand again. I believe in what I feel when I'm with you. I believe in the way Amara lights up when she teaches me something new. I believe in the peace I feel here that I've never felt anywhere else. That's enough belief for me. Brianna squeezed his hand. Okay, we'll try this. But slowly. Because Amara's heart is involved, and I won't let her get hurt if this doesn't work out. I won't hurt her, Nathan promised. Or you. I can't promise everything will be perfect, but I can promise I'll try. Every day I'll try to be worthy of the trust you're giving me. That's all anyone can promise, Brianna said softly. They spent the rest of the morning in the garden, hands occasionally brushing, stealing glances at each other like teenagers with a first crush. It felt ridiculous and wonderful at the same time. When Amara came home from school, she took one look at them and grinned. You're being different, she announced. Smiling different. Did something good happen? Yes, Brianna said, pulling her daughter close. Something very good. Good. Amara bounced happily. Can we celebrate with ice cream? We can celebrate with ice cream, Nathan agreed. Come on, I'll drive us into town. At the ice cream shop, a small place on Main Street that made everything from scratch, they ran into Mrs. Patterson from the diner. The older woman's eyes lit up when she saw them together. Well, isn't this lovely, she said, her warm voice full of approval. I was hoping things were working out well for you, Brianna. Mrs. Patterson, this is Nathan Cole. Nathan, this is Mrs. Patterson, my boss at the Riverside Diner. The man whose house she's been living in, Mrs. Patterson said shrewdly, shaking Nathan's hand. Word gets around in a small town, dear. But don't worry, no one thinks poorly of it. Everyone can see Brianna's been taking care of that property beautifully. And anyone who helps a mother and her child the way you have is good people in my book. Thank you, Nathan said, touched by her words. Brianna's been an exceptional property manager. The house has never looked better. I'm sure it hasn't. Mrs. Patterson winked at Brianna. You've got yourself a good man here, dear. Don't let him go. As Mrs. Patterson walked away, Brianna turned to Nathan with wide eyes. She thinks we're together. Like together. Are we wrong to let her think that? Nathan asked. After what happened in the garden this morning? I don't know. Are we together? Brianna looked vulnerable asking the question, like she was afraid of the answer either way. I want to be, Nathan said honestly. I want to take you to dinner. Hold your hand in public. Kiss you goodnight. All the traditional dating things, even though we're kind of doing this backwards. But only if you want that too. I do want that, Brianna admitted. But Nathan, we need to be realistic. Your life is complicated. You have a company to run, an ex-wife who's probably still in your social circle, a world that's completely foreign to me. Are you really ready for all the complications that come with dating me? Nathan looked at this woman who'd survived homelessness with her daughter, who'd made his house into a home, who kissed him in the garden and made his heart race. Bring on the complications. I'm ready. The following week, Nathan took Brianna on their first official date. He drove them to a small Italian restaurant 2 towns over, far enough from the local gossip but close enough to get home to Amara, who was being watched by Mrs. Patterson. Brianna wore a blue dress she'd bought at a thrift store years ago, simple but elegant. Nathan wore a dark green shirt and jeans, having learned that Brianna liked him best when he looked comfortable rather than corporate. I'm nervous, Brianna admitted as they walked into the restaurant. Is that silly? We've been eating meals together for weeks. It's not silly. I'm nervous too. Nathan took her hand, linking their fingers. But good nervous. The kind that means something matters. The restaurant was cozy, with candles on the tables and soft music playing in the background. They ordered wine and pasta, and for the first time they talked without Amara as a buffer between them. Talked about their past relationships, their fears, their dreams. I was married once, Nathan said, swirling wine in his glass. For 3 years. She was beautiful, ambitious, everything I thought I wanted. But she wanted the lifestyle more than she wanted me. When I had a bad quarter and had to cut back on spending, she left. Filed for divorce and married someone wealthier within 6 months. That must have hurt. It did. But looking back, I realized we were never really connected. We performed marriage like it was another business deal. All image, no substance. Nathan looked at Brianna. Nothing like what I feel with you. What we have feels real in a way nothing else ever has. I was never married, Brianna shared. Amara's father and I dated for 2 years, but we were young. When I got pregnant, he panicked. Said he wasn't ready to be a father. Asked me to not have her. Brianna's voice broke slightly. I couldn't do that. I wanted her. So he left. Signed away his parental rights and disappeared. Last I heard, he was living in California, still not ready for responsibility. His loss, Nathan said firmly. Amara is incredible. He gave up something precious because he was too afraid to grow up. I used to be angry about it, but now I'm just grateful. Grateful that Amara never had to know a father who didn't want her. Grateful that we've built a life together, just the 2 of us. And now? Brianna paused, meeting Nathan's eyes. Now maybe not just the 2 of us anymore. If you'll have me, Nathan said. I know I'm not perfect. I work too much. I overthink everything. I'm learning how to be present instead of always planning the next move. But I'm trying. Every day with you and Amara, I'm trying to be better. You're already better than you think, Brianna said softly. You're patient with Amara. You listen when she talks about her day like it's the most important thing in the world. You made her feel safe when she'd spent months feeling scared. That's not nothing, Nathan. That's everything. After dinner, they walked through the small downtown area, hand in hand, window shopping and talking. Nathan found himself relaxing in a way he never had on dates in the city. There was no performance here. No need to impress or maintain an image. Just 2 people enjoying each other's company. Can I tell you something? Brianna said as they stood looking at the window display of a bookshop. Something I've been afraid to say? You can tell me anything. I think I'm falling in love with you. The words came out in a rush, like she had to say them before she lost her nerve. I know it's too soon. I know we should be more careful. But I can't help it. You've become the best part of my day. The person I think about when I wake up and before I fall asleep. And it terrifies me because I don't want to get hurt. But more than that, I don't want to lie about what I feel. Nathan's heart swelled at her words. He pulled her close, right there on the sidewalk, and kissed her deeply. When they broke apart, both were smiling. I'm falling in love with you too, he said. Have been for weeks probably. Definitely since you kissed me in the garden. Maybe since the day I found you in my house and you didn't run or make excuses but just told me the truth. You're brave, Brianna. You're strong and honest and everything I didn't know I needed. And yes, I'm terrified too. But I'm more terrified of letting you go than I am of taking this risk. They drove home wrapped in the warm glow of mutual confession, hands linked across the center console, stealing glances at each other at red lights. When they arrived home, Mrs. Patterson was sitting on the porch, reading a book while Ginger dozed beside her. Amara went down about an hour ago, she reported, standing and stretching. Sweet child. We made cookies and watched a movie. She talked about you two non-stop. Mrs. Patterson gave them a knowing smile. I hope you two had a lovely evening. We did, Brianna said. Thank you so much for watching her. My pleasure, dear. Anytime you need a sitter, you just call. Mrs. Patterson winked at Nathan. You take good care of these two. They're special. I know they are, Nathan said. And I will. After Mrs. Patterson left, Nathan walked Brianna to the main house door. They stood there like actual teenagers, neither wanting to say goodnight. Would you like to come in? Brianna asked. For coffee or something? I'd love to. They settled on the couch with coffee, sitting close enough that their shoulders touched. Ginger appeared from wherever he'd been sleeping and demanded attention, jumping up between them. Even the cat doesn't want me to leave, Nathan laughed, scratching Ginger's head. You don't have to leave, Brianna said quietly. You could stay. I mean, not in an inappropriate way. Just stay. Talk more. Be here. So Nathan stayed. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. About their childhoods and their fears and their hopes for the future. About how Brianna wanted to eventually get her teaching certificate renewed and maybe start tutoring local kids. About how Nathan wanted to restructure his company so he could work remotely most of the time. About how Amara was thriving in school and had been invited to her first sleepover next month. She's going to ask if she can go, Brianna said. And I'm going to have to say yes even though the idea of her sleeping at someone else's house terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? Because what if something goes wrong? What if she needs me and I'm not there? What if the parents aren't as careful as they should be? Brianna shook her head. I know I'm being overprotective. I know she needs to have normal childhood experiences. But after everything we went through, after the months of not being able to keep her safe, the idea of letting her out of my sight still scares me. That's understandable, Nathan said, pulling her closer. But you're right that she needs normal experiences. And maybe letting her go to the sleepover will help you trust that you've given her a strong foundation. That she can handle new situations because you've taught her how. When did you become so wise about parenting? Since I started caring about a little girl who calls me Mr. Nathan and teaches me things about tomato plants and proper cat care. Brianna laughed, the sound warm and genuine. She adores you, you know. She told Mrs. Patterson tonight that you're like her dad but better because you're her friend too. Nathan's throat tightened. She said that? According to Mrs. Patterson. Amara said most kids just have dads who tell them what to do, but you actually listen to her. You let her explain things and ask questions and be herself. Brianna looked at him seriously. That's a gift, Nathan. The gift of being seen and heard. Not enough children get that from the adults in their lives. She deserves to be heard. She's smart and funny and sees the world in ways that make me reconsider everything I thought I knew. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. You value her perspective. You don't dismiss her because she's young. Brianna wiped at her eyes. I'm so grateful you found us. I'm so grateful you didn't call the police that first day. I'm so grateful for every choice you've made that led us to this moment. Me too, Nathan said softly. Every single one. They sat there in comfortable silence, Brianna leaning against Nathan's shoulder, Ginger purring between them. Through the window, the moon cast silver light across the garden. Everything felt peaceful. Right. Like all the broken pieces of their lives had finally found a way to fit together into something whole. Nathan. Brianna said after a while. Earlier tonight when I said I was falling in love with you? I need to correct that. She sat up, turning to face him. I'm not falling. I've already fallen. Completely. Terrifyingly. Wonderfully fallen in love with you. Nathan cupped her face in his hands, looking into her eyes. Good. Because I've already fallen for you too. For you and for Amara and for this life we're building together. I don't want to go back to who I was before. I don't want to lose this. Then don't, Brianna whispered. Stay. Make this your life. Make us your life. Is that what you want? Really? It's what I want. What I've wanted since that day in the garden when you said we didn't need timelines. When you said we could just see where this goes. Brianna took his hands. I want to see where it goes, Nathan. I want to build something real with you. Something that lasts. Then that's what we'll do, Nathan promised. We'll build something real. Something lasting. Something worth everything. They sealed the promise with a kiss, deep and full of emotion. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through happy tears. You should probably head back to the guest house, Brianna said reluctantly. Before Amara wakes up and finds you here. I want to tell her about us properly, not have her discover it by accident. Tomorrow? Nathan asked. We tell her tomorrow? Tomorrow, Brianna agreed. Nathan walked back to the guest house, his heart lighter than he could remember. He'd come to this property looking for solitude and escape, Instead, he'd found connection and love and a reason to be the best version of himself. He'd found a family that chose him not because of his money or his success, but because of who he was when all of that was stripped away. And for the first time in his adult life, Nathan felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. Living exactly the life he was meant to live. Tomorrow they'd tell Amara. They'd make this official. They'd step into this new chapter as a family, or at least the beginning of one. Nathan should be scared. Maybe part of him was. But mostly he was excited. Hopeful. Ready to build something beautiful with two people who'd changed his life in the best possible way. He fell asleep smiling, dreams full of tomorrows that looked exactly like today, only more so. More laughter. More love. More simple moments that added up to a life worth living. What would you do if you found love in the most unexpected place? If someone showed up in your life and made you believe in second chances? Brianna and Nathan's story is about taking risks and letting people in, even when it's scary. If you're enjoying their journey, subscribe to see what happens next. Comment below and tell us about a time someone unexpected changed your life. Your stories inspire us to keep sharing theirs. The next morning, Nathan and Brianna sat Amara down before school. The little girl looked between them with wide, knowing eyes. "You're going to tell me something important," she said seriously. "I can tell." "We are," Brianna confirmed. "Mr. Nathan and I, we've become more than friends. We care about each other in a special way. Like grown-ups who are dating." "Like boyfriend and girlfriend?" Amara asked, her face lighting up. "Yes, like that," Nathan said. "But we wanted to make sure you're okay with it first. Because your feelings matter most of all." Amara thought about this for a moment, her young face serious. Then she smiled, bright and genuine. "I think it's good. You both smile more now. And Mama doesn't look worried all the time anymore. And I like having you around, Mr. Nathan. You make us happy." "You make me happy too," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Both of you. More than you know." "So can I call you Nathan now instead of Mr. Nathan?" Amara asked. "Since you're Mama's boyfriend?" "You can call me whatever you're comfortable with," Nathan said. "Mr. Nathan is fine. Nathan is fine. Whatever feels right to you." "I'll think about it," Amara said seriously. Then, with the quick subject changes only children managed, she asked, "Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" "Absolutely," Brianna laughed, relieved at how well that had gone. "Go wash your hands while I make them." As Amara skipped off to the bathroom, Nathan pulled Brianna close. "That went well. Better than well. She's happy for us." "Of course she is. She's known we belonged together since before we did." They made pancakes together, a family in all the ways that mattered, even without the legal documents to prove it. And as Nathan watched Amara and Brianna laugh over breakfast, he knew he'd made the right choice in every way. The right choice to stay. The right choice to open his heart. The right choice to believe in second chances and unexpected love. This was his life now. This was his family. And he would do everything in his power to keep it. 2 days later, Nathan's past arrived in the form of a black Mercedes pulling up the driveway. He was in the garden with Amara, teaching her about companion planting, when he heard the car. His stomach dropped. "Stay here with Mama," he told Amara, heading toward the front of the house where Brianna was painting the porch trim. The man who emerged from the Mercedes was James Thornton, Nathan's business partner and oldest friend. They'd started the company together 15 years ago, building it from a garage startup to a tech giant. James was dressed in his typical expensive suit, looking completely out of place against the rural backdrop. "Nathan," James said, his voice tight. "What the hell is going on? You've been gone for 6 weeks. You're not returning calls. Jennifer said you took a leave of absence without consulting the board. The takeover bid is still active, and you're out here playing farmer." "Hello, James," Nathan said calmly. "It's good to see you too. Don't give me that casual tone. This is serious. The company needs you. The company has you. And Michael. And an entire executive team perfectly capable of handling day-to-day operations. That's not the point. You're the CEO. You're the face of the company. Investors are asking questions. The board is concerned. Your ex-wife's new husband is making noise about how you've abandoned your responsibilities." James finally seemed to notice Brianna on the porch, watching this exchange warily. "And who is this?" "This is Brianna Foster. She's the property manager here and my girlfriend." Nathan said the words firmly, claiming both titles without hesitation. James's eyebrows shot up. "Your girlfriend? Nathan, have you lost your mind? You can't just disappear from your life to play house with some random woman." "James?" Nathan's voice took on an edge. I need you to choose your next words very carefully. But the damage was done. Brianna had heard, some random woman, and her face had shuddered. She set down her paintbrush and walked inside, closing the door quietly behind her. Great job, Nathan said coldly. You just insulted the most important person in my life. Important? James looked incredulous. Nathan, you've known her for what, a month? This is insane. You're having some kind of crisis. I am having a crisis, Nathan agreed. A crisis of understanding that I've spent 15 years building something that makes me miserable. A crisis of realizing that success means nothing if you're empty inside. A crisis of finally understanding what actually matters. And what matters is some woman you barely know. That woman saved my life, Nathan said quietly. Not dramatically. Not heroically. Just by being exactly who she is. By reminding me that kindness exists. That small moments of joy are worth more than big moments of achievement. That waking up excited about the day is more valuable than any profit margin. James stared at him. You're serious? Completely. Then you need to come back and handle this properly. Restructure your role. Set up remote work. But you can't just vanish, Nathan. There are legal obligations. Contractual requirements. Board meetings you're required to attend. I know, Nathan admitted. And I will handle it. But on my terms, not the company's. I'm restructuring my life, James. Making space for things that matter alongside the work. You can either support that or not, but I'm doing it either way. James was quiet for a long moment, studying Nathan's face. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. You really care about her. More than I've cared about anything in a long time. Okay. Then let's figure this out. But Nathan, you have to give me something. Come back for 2 weeks. Handle the takeover bid. Reassure the board. Set up whatever structure you need so you can work remotely. But do it right. Don't burn everything down because you're running from your responsibilities. Nathan considered this. 2 weeks. I come back for 2 weeks, handle the immediate crisis, then return here. And I'm bringing Brianna and Amara with me. What? I'm not leaving them here alone. And they need to see that part of my life if we're going to make this work. They need to understand what they're getting into. James shook his head, but he was still smiling. You're actually serious about this. About her. About all of this. I've never been more serious about anything. Then I guess I should meet her properly. As your girlfriend, not as some random woman. That was out of line. I apologize. Nathan led James to the house, knocking gently before entering. He found Brianna in the kitchen, making lunch for Amara, her movements stiff and controlled. Brianna, I'm sorry about what James said. He was wrong. Completely wrong. It's fine. Her tone said it was anything but fine. It's not fine. You're not some random woman. You're the woman I love. You and Amara are my family. And James knows that now. Nathan took her hand. He wants to apologize. James stepped forward, looking genuinely contrite. I'm sorry, Miss Foster. I was out of line. I was worried about Nathan and the company, but that doesn't excuse my rudeness. Nathan obviously cares deeply about you and your daughter, and that means you're important to me too, as his friend. Brianna studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. Apology accepted. Would you like some lunch? I'm making sandwiches. I'd love some, thank you. Over lunch, with Amara having returned from the garden and joining them, James got to see what Nathan's life had become. He watched Nathan help Amara with a difficult word in her reading book. Watched Brianna and Nathan work together in the kitchen with easy coordination. Watched a man he'd known for 15 years look genuinely relaxed and happy for the first time in memory. After lunch, while Amara went to play with Ginger, James pulled Nathan aside. I see it now. What you found here. And I understand why you don't want to lose it. Thank you. But Nathan, you have to be realistic. This is a huge adjustment. Blending your life in the city with this life here. Bringing them into your world. There will be complications. I know. But avoiding complications doesn't make them go away. It just means you're not living fully. Nathan looked through the window at Brianna, who was watching Amara play. She's worth the complications, James. They both are. Then let's make this work. Come back with me for 2 weeks. Bring them with you. Set up your remote work structure. Handle the board. Then come back here and build whatever life you want. I'll support you. The company will survive without you being there every day. You'll need to step up as CEO. Take over day-to-day operations. Let me focus on strategy and vision from here. I can do that. James extended his hand. Partners? Partners? Nathan agreed, shaking firmly. That evening, Nathan explained the situation to Brianna. They were sitting on the porch after Amara had gone to bed, the night air warm and full of cricket song. 2 weeks in the city, Brianna repeated. You, me, and Amara. Yes. I need to handle some company business. Set up the structure for working remotely. And I want you both with me. I want you to see that part of my life. To understand it. To decide if you can be part of it. Nathan, I don't know anything about your world. About business meetings and boardrooms and whatever else you do. I'll be completely out of place. You'll be completely yourself, which is all I want. Amara can miss a week of school. We'll stay in my penthouse apartment. You'll meet my colleagues, see my office, understand what I do. And then we'll come back here together. What if I hate it? What if your world is too much for me? Then we'll figure it out. But Brianna, I need you to see it before you decide. I need you to make an informed choice about whether you can be with someone whose life includes that world alongside this one. Brianna was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, okay. 2 weeks. But Nathan, promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if it becomes clear this won't work, if our worlds are too different to bridge, you'll be honest about it. Don't try to force something that doesn't fit. Don't sacrifice too much of yourself trying to make me comfortable. I promise. But I also promise that I believe it will work. That I believe we can find a balance. That I believe we're strong enough to navigate whatever complications come up. I hope you're right. So do I. They spent the next few days preparing for the trip. Brianna worried about what to pack, what to wear, how to act. Nathan reassured her that she didn't need to act like anyone but herself. Amara was excited about the adventure, asking endless questions about the city and what they'd see there. The night before they left, Brianna couldn't sleep. She found Nathan in the guest house, also awake, working on his laptop. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. What if your colleagues judge me? What if I embarrass you? You couldn't embarrass me if you tried. You're smart, capable, and genuine. Those are the qualities that matter. Nathan closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. Brianna, most of the people in my business world are performing. Playing roles. Maintaining images. You're real. That's not a weakness. That's your strength. Your world sounds exhausting. It is. That's why I need you in it. To remind me what's real. What's worth protecting. Brianna came to sit beside him on the bed. I love you. I don't think I've said that enough. But I do. I love you so completely it scares me. I love you too. And that's going to carry us through whatever comes next. They held each other in the quiet night, drawing strength from their connection. Tomorrow they'd step into Nathan's other world. They'd face whatever complications arose. They'd navigate the challenges of blending two very different lives. But tonight they were simply two people in love, believing that love would be enough. The city overwhelmed Amara from the moment they arrived. She pressed her face against the car window, eyes wide at the tall buildings, the crowds of people, the endless noise and movement. Nathan's penthouse apartment, situated on the 40th floor with views of the entire downtown, made her gasp. You live in the sky, she breathed, running to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Mama, come look. We're higher than the birds. Brianna stood in the middle of the massive living room, taking in the sleek modern furniture, the expensive art on the walls, the spotless marble floors. This was Nathan's real life. This luxury, this excess, this world of money she'd only ever seen in movies. And she felt completely out of place. It's beautiful, she managed to say. Nathan heard the strain in her voice. He came to stand beside her, taking her hand. It's empty. That's what I realized when I left. All this space, all this luxury, and it felt like a tomb. The house you're living in, that tiny kitchen where we make breakfast together, that messy garden full of vegetables? That feels like home. This. He gestured around them. This is just a place to sleep when I have to be in the city. It's still your world, Nathan. A world I don't understand. Then let me help you understand it. Starting with the fact that none of this matters more than you do. Over the next few days, Nathan took them through his life in the city. He brought them to his office, where Amara was fascinated by the computers and technology. His employees clearly adored him, and they were warm to Brianna and Amara, welcoming them with genuine kindness. Brianna noticed how Nathan's demeanor changed in the office. He was more formal, more guarded. But when he looked at her and Amara, his face would soften into the man she knew. The board meeting was harder. Nathan insisted Brianna attend, wanting her to see the worst of his business world. She sat in the back of the conference room while Nathan faced questions from board members who clearly disapproved of his absence. You abandoned your responsibilities, one older man said sharply. took a leave of absence without consulting anyone, left the company vulnerable during an attempted takeover. What do you have to say for yourself? I say that I needed time to evaluate what matters, Nathan responded calmly. And I've concluded that this company will thrive without me being here every single day. James is more than capable of handling day-to-day operations as CEO. I'll remain as chairman, focusing on strategy and vision, working primarily remotely with regular trips to the city for important meetings. That's unacceptable, another board member interjected. You're the face of this company. You can't just disappear to the countryside. I'm not disappearing. I'm restructuring my role to allow for a balanced life. And if the board finds that unacceptable, I'm prepared to sell my shares and step down entirely. Silence fell over the room. Nathan owned 40% of the company. If he sold those shares, the power dynamic would shift dramatically. James stepped in smoothly. Nathan has every right to structure his role in a way that works for him. He built this company. His vision has driven every success we've achieved. If he says he can do that effectively while working remotely, I believe him. And I'm prepared to step up as CEO to ensure daily operations run smoothly. The meeting continued for 2 more hours, but eventually the board agreed to Nathan's terms. He'd remain as chairman, visit the city twice a month for important meetings, but work primarily from his countryside property. James would handle the CEO responsibilities. After the meeting, Nathan found Brianna in the waiting area outside the conference room. She looked shaken. That was intense, she said. That was business. People posturing and protecting their interests. Nathan pulled her into his arms. But it's done. I got what I wanted. The ability to live the life I choose while still fulfilling my obligations. You were going to walk away. Sell everything and step down. You said it right there in front of all those powerful people. Because none of it is worth losing you. None of it matters if I'm miserable. Nathan cupped her face. You heard them say I abandoned my responsibilities. But they're wrong. I found my real responsibilities. You and Amara. Building a life that feels worth living. That's what I'm committed to now. Brianna kissed him there in the corporate hallway, not caring who saw. When they pulled apart, she was crying. You keep choosing us. Over and over you choose us. Because you're the best choice I've ever made. That weekend, Nathan wanted to show them the fun side of the city. They went to museums where Amara was fascinated by the dinosaur exhibits. They visited an aquarium, where she pressed her hands against the glass to watch sharks swim past. They had dinner at nice restaurants, though Brianna insisted they also try food trucks and pizza by the slice, which Amara declared was better than any fancy meal. On their last evening in the city, Nathan took them to his favorite spot, a rooftop garden tucked away on a building few people knew about. It was sunset, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple, the city lights beginning to twinkle below. I used to come here when things got overwhelming, Nathan explained as they walked through the garden. It was the only place in the city where I could breathe, where I could think clearly. It's beautiful, Brianna said, watching Amara explore the flowers. I thought so too. But now I know it was just a pale imitation of what I really needed. The garden at home, with you working in it, with Amara playing nearby, with Ginger demanding attention? That's what real peace looks like. Nathan took Brianna's hand, leading her to a bench with a view of the sunset. Amara was several feet away, examining a butterfly with intense concentration. Brianna, I need to ask you something. Something I've been thinking about since the day we met, even though I knew it was too soon. But being here in this city, showing you my other life, watching you handle everything with grace and strength, it's made me certain. He pulled out a small box from his pocket and Brianna's breath caught. I know this is fast, Nathan said, opening the box to reveal a simple but beautiful ring, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. I know we've only known each other for a few months. I know people will say we're rushing, that we should wait, that we don't know each other well enough. But I don't care what people say. I care about how I feel when I wake up next to you. I care about how Amara's laughter makes everything better. I care about building a life that matters, and you two are what matters most. Nathan, Brianna whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm asking you to agree that someday when you're ready you'll marry me. That you'll take this ring as a promise that I'm committed to you and Amara for the long term. That I'm choosing you today and every day after. Brianna looked at the ring, at this man who'd shown up in his own house to find her there and chosen kindness over anger. Who'd given them shelter and hope and love without hesitation. Who'd restructured his entire life to make room for them. Yes, she said simply. Yes to someday. Yes to this promise. Yes to building a life together. Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. They kissed as the sun set behind them, the city lights twinkling below, Amara's delighted gasp carrying across the garden as she discovered they were engaged. "Does this mean Nathan will be my dad?" Amara asked, running to them. "If that's what you want," Nathan said, pulling her into their embrace. "I'll adopt you legally if your mom agrees and you want that. Make it official that we're a family." "I want that," Amara said seriously. "I want it very much." "Then that's what we'll do," Brianna promised, her heart full to bursting. "We'll make it official. All of it." That night, after Amara was asleep in the guest room, Brianna and Nathan sat on the balcony, watching the city breathe below them. "Are you sure about this?" Brianna asked, twisting the ring on her finger. "About giving up so much of this life for us?" "I'm not giving up anything that matters. I'm gaining everything that matters." Nathan pulled her close. "These weeks in the city showing you my other life, watching you navigate it? You've proven you can handle both worlds. You're strong enough for the complications, brave enough for the challenges, and I love you enough to make sure those challenges don't break us. I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes. Then let's be scared together. Let's build something beautiful anyway. Let's show Amara that love is worth the risk, that family is worth fighting for, that happy endings are possible even when you start from the hardest places." "When did you become such an optimist?" "When I found two people living in my house and realized they were the answer to questions I didn't know I was asking." They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, the ring on Brianna's finger catching the light from the city below. In a few days they'd return to the countryside. Back to the house that had brought them together. Back to the garden and the quiet and the simple life they'd built. But this time they'd return as an officially committed family. As people building a future together, not just surviving day by day. The next morning, Nathan had one more surprise. He took them to a property near his countryside house, about 5 miles down the road. It was a large old building, formerly a school, now sitting empty. "What is this?" Brianna asked as they walked through the dusty halls. "Your teaching center," Nathan said. "Remember how you mentioned wanting to tutor local kids? I've been looking into it. This building is for sale. It has classrooms, a library, an auditorium. Everything you'd need to start a community learning center. Free tutoring for kids who need extra help. After-school programs. Summer camps. Whatever you want to create." Brianna stared at him, speechless. "I'm not saying you have to do this," Nathan continued quickly. "It's just an option. Something to think about. But if you want it, if this is your dream, I'll buy the building. Fund the renovations. Support whatever programs you want to create. Make it happen." "Nathan, this is too much. It's an investment in the community, in education, in the kind of future we want to build for Amara and kids like her." Nathan took her hand. "You're a teacher, Brianna. You said losing that job was one of the hardest parts of everything you went through. This is a chance to teach again. On your own terms. Creating exactly the kind of program you think kids need." "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it. Say you'll dream about what you'd create if you had the resources. Say you'll let me help make those dreams real." "I'll think about it," Brianna agreed, her mind already spinning with possibilities. A place where kids could get help with homework. Where struggling students could find support. Where education was free and accessible to everyone who needed it. "I'll definitely think about it." Amara ran through the empty classrooms, her footsteps echoing. "Mama could teach here? Like a real school?" "Like a real school," Nathan confirmed. "Would you like that?" "I'd love it. Then Mama would be happy teaching again. She smiles different when she talks about teaching. Like she lights up inside." Nathan and Brianna exchanged glances. Out of the mouths of children came the truest observations. Brianna did light up when she talked about teaching. She missed it, mourned it, dreamed of it even though she'd thought that dream was over. "Let's make it happen," Nathan said. "Let's create something beautiful here. For you, for the community, for kids who need what you have to offer." "Yes," Brianna said, the word coming from somewhere deep and certain. "Yes, let's do it. Let's create something beautiful." They spent the rest of the morning walking through the building, Brianna pointing out what could be done with each space. Nathan took notes on his phone, already planning renovations, already imagining this place full of children and learning and hope. By the time they headed back to the city for one final night before returning to the countryside, all three of them were excited about the future. About the teaching center. About their growing family. About all the possibilities stretching out before them. "Thank you," Brianna said that night as they packed for the trip home. "For all of this. For believing in me. For seeing potential I'd stopped seeing in myself. You don't need to thank me for seeing what's already there. You're incredible, Brianna. You always have been. I'm just lucky enough to be the one helping you remember that. We're both lucky, she said, kissing him softly. Lucky we found each other. Lucky we took the risk. Lucky love is real and possible and worth fighting for. The luckiest, Nathan agreed. And as they fell asleep that night, Amara safe in the next room, the ring on Brianna's finger catching the light from the city outside, both of them felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. They felt certain. Certain that they were building something real. Something lasting. Something that would stand up to whatever complications life threw their way. Because love like theirs? Love built on truth and kindness and mutual respect? That kind of love could weather any storm. They'd been back at the countryside property for 3 weeks when the storm hit. Not just a weather storm, though that came too. But first, the storm of reality catching up to their beautiful bubble. It started with a phone call. Nathan was in his office in the guest house, Brianna was working in the garden, and Amara was at school. His phone rang, an unknown number. Normally he'd ignore it. But something made him answer. Mr. Cole, this is Rebecca Martinez from the Department of Child Services. I'm calling about a report we received regarding a child living at your property. Nathan's blood ran cold. What kind of report? A report that a minor is residing at your address without proper guardianship documentation. That the mother was homeless and may have fraudulently enrolled the child in school. We need to conduct a home visit to ensure the child's welfare. When? This afternoon if possible. I'm in the area. Would 2 o'clock work? Nathan's mind raced. Someone had reported them. Someone had called child services. Oh, what? Yes. 2 o'clock is fine. The mother is Brianna Foster. She's my employee and my fiancé. Everything is completely legitimate. I'm sure it is, Mr. Cole. This is just standard procedure when we receive a report. We'll see you at 2. Nathan immediately called Brianna, who came running from the garden. He explained the situation, watching the color drain from her face. Someone reported us, she said, her voice shaking. Someone called child services on me. Nathan, what if they take Amara? What if they think I'm an unfit mother? What if everything I did, living here without permission, using a false address for school, what if it all comes back now and destroys everything? That's not going to happen, Nathan said firmly, pulling her into his arms. You're an excellent mother. Amara is happy, healthy, well cared for. We have documentation that you're my employee, that you live here legitimately now. Whatever report they got, we'll handle it. But Brianna was spiraling, all her fears from the homeless months flooding back. You don't understand. The system doesn't look kindly on mothers who make mistakes, who take risks, who do desperate things to keep their children safe. They see that as proof you're unfit, not proof that you love your child. Then we'll prove them wrong. Together. Brianna, look at me. Nathan waited until her eyes met his. I'm not going to let anyone take Amara. I'm not going to let anyone judge you for doing what you had to do to survive. We're going to face this social worker together, show her the truth of your life now, and put this behind us. At 2 o'clock, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a professional demeanor arrived at their door. Rebecca Martinez carried a clipboard and wore a sympathetic expression that somehow made everything worse. Thank you for meeting with me on such short notice, she said. May I come in? Brianna led her through the house, which gleamed from all the care she'd put into it. Rebecca took notes, asked questions about living arrangements, employment, Amara's schooling, her health. She was polite but thorough, clearly doing her job conscientiously. Miss Foster, can you tell me about the period when you were homeless? The report I received suggests that during that time, you may have made some questionable decisions regarding your daughter's care. I did what I had to do to keep her safe, Brianna said, her voice steady despite her fear. We slept in my car for 3 weeks. I used public bathrooms to get her cleaned up for school. I lied about having an address because I needed her to have some normalcy, some stability. Was it wrong? Legally, probably. But as her mother, keeping her in school, keeping her feeling safe, was the right choice. And now? How long have you been living here? 4 months. Mr. Cole found us here about 6 weeks ago. Since then, I've been employed as his property manager. We're also engaged. Brianna showed her ring. This is my home now. Legitimately. Legally. Everything is documented. Rebecca nodded, making notes. Then she asked to speak with Amara alone, which was standard procedure. When the bus brought Amara home, the little girl was confused to find a stranger in her house but answered all of Rebecca's questions honestly. Yes, she was happy. Yes, her mother took good care of her. Yes, she had enough to eat and a safe place to sleep. Yes, she loved living here with her mom and Nathan. No, no one hurt her or scared her. No, she didn't want to live anywhere else. After an hour, Rebecca closed her notebook and smiled. Everything looks fine here. More than fine. Amara is clearly thriving. Miss Foster, you've done an excellent job under difficult circumstances. Mr. Cole, thank you for opening your home to this family. Does this mean we're okay? Brianna asked, hardly daring to hope. The report, it's dismissed? The report suggested neglect and unsafe living conditions. I see no evidence of either. I'll be closing this case as unfounded. Rebecca stood to leave, then paused. Can I give you some advice off the record? Please, Brianna said. Whoever called this in, they were trying to hurt you. Trying to use the system to cause problems for your family. The best revenge is living well. Which you're clearly doing. Rebecca shook both their hands. Take care of each other. And Miss Foster? You're a good mother. Never let anyone make you doubt that. After Rebecca left, Brianna collapsed onto the couch, shaking with relief. Amara climbed into her lap, sensing her mother's distress even if she didn't fully understand it. We're okay, Mama? We're okay, baby. We're all okay. But Nathan was pacing, anger radiating off him. Who called? Who would do this? It doesn't matter, Brianna said tiredly. It's over. We passed. Everything's fine. It does matter. Someone tried to take Amara from you. Someone tried to use your past against you. I want to know who. The answer came the next day in the form of another unwelcome visitor. This time it was Nathan's ex-wife, Diane, pulling up in a sports car that cost more than most people's houses. Nathan, she said, air-kissing his cheeks like they were still friends. I heard you were playing house out here. Thought I'd come see for myself. Diane. What do you want? To see if the rumors are true. That you've given up your entire life for some homeless woman and her kid. Diane's smile was sharp as glass. And here I thought you were smarter than that. Nathan's jaw clenched. Did you call child services? Maybe I did. Maybe I was concerned about a child being raised by someone who makes such poor choices. Living in a car, breaking into houses, lying about addresses. Doesn't sound like great mother material to me. Get off my property. Oh, Nathan. Still so dramatic. I'm just trying to help you see sense. You're throwing away everything you've built for what? A brief infatuation with someone from a completely different world? How long before you get bored of playing farmer and want your real life back? Brianna had come out onto the porch, hearing every word. I'm right here. If you have something to say about me, say it to my face. Diane turned, looking Brianna up and down with barely concealed disdain. You really think this will last? You think a man like Nathan, who's used to the best of everything, will be satisfied with this little domestic fantasy? He'll get tired of you. He'll remember what he gave up. And then where will you be? Back in your car, probably, with a broken heart and a confused child. That's enough, Nathan said, his voice cold. You need to leave. Now. I'm just being honest. Someone should be. You're making a huge mistake, Nathan. When this falls apart, don't come crying to me. I won't. Because it's not going to fall apart. And even if it did, you'd be the last person I'd turn to. You wanted my money, not me. Brianna loves me for who I am, not what I have. That's the difference between you two. Diane's face flushed with anger. You'll regret this. You'll wake up one day and realize you gave up your entire world for someone who can't even navigate it properly. And by then it'll be too late. She stalked back to her car and peeled out of the driveway, leaving tire marks in the gravel. Nathan turned to find Brianna standing very still, her face pale. She's right, Brianna said quietly. What? She's right. I don't belong in your world. Today proved that. Someone can call child services on me because of my past. Someone can try to take my daughter because I made desperate choices. That's who I am, Nathan. Someone with a past that can be used against me. Against us. That's not who you are. That's just circumstances you survived. There's a huge difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like being with me brings complications you don't need. Questions about your judgment. Problems with your business relationships. Ex-wives showing up to mock your choices. I don't care about any of that. But I do, Brianna said, tears streaming down her face. I care that loving me makes your life harder. I care that my past can hurt Amara's future. I care that maybe Diane is right and you'll wake up one day and regret choosing us. Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her tight despite her attempts to pull away. Listen to me. Really listen. I will never regret choosing you. Never. Not when ex-wives show up. Not when child services investigates. Not when anyone questions my decisions. You and Amara are the best things that ever happened to me. Everything else is just noise. How can you be so sure? Because before you, I was empty. I had everything money could buy and nothing that made life worth living. Now I have you and Amara and a house that feels like home and a future I'm excited about. That's worth more than all the money in the world. That's worth any complication anyone wants to throw at us. Just then the sky opened up. The weather storm that had been threatening all day finally broke, rain coming down in sheets. Thunder crashed overhead. Brianna and Nathan ran for the house, getting soaked in seconds. Inside, dripping wet and laughing despite the emotional intensity of the day, they found Amara at the window, watching the storm with wide eyes. "Mama, Nathan, look how hard it's raining. The garden's going to be so happy." Something about her simple statement, her child's perspective that saw the storm as something good, broke through Brianna's fear. She looked at Nathan, really looked at him, and saw the truth in his eyes. He meant every word. He was choosing them. Today and every day after. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "For doubting you. For letting Diane get in my head. For being scared. Don't apologize for being human. Don't apologize for having fears after everything you've survived." Nathan cupped her face in his hands. "But do trust me when I say I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. For you and for Amara. Through every storm. Every complication. Every challenge. I'm here." "I love you," Brianna said. "So much it terrifies me. So much that the thought of losing you makes it hard to breathe. Then breathe with me. Let me carry some of that fear. Let me prove to you that this is real and lasting and worth believing in." They kissed as the storm raged outside, Amara's happy voice calling out each time the thunder crashed, Ginger meowing for attention from his perch on the windowsill. It was messy and imperfect and full of complications. And it was perfect. Later, after the storm passed and Amara was asleep, Nathan and Brianna sat on the porch, watching the last of the rain drip from the eaves. The air smelled clean, fresh, like the earth breathing relief. "I want to marry you," Nathan said suddenly. "Not someday. As soon as we can arrange it. I want to make this official. Make it clear to everyone, including Diane and anyone else who wants to cause problems, that you and Amara are my family. Legally. Permanently. Irrevocably mine. Nathan. I'm serious. Let's get married. Small ceremony, just us and people who matter. Then let's start the adoption process for Amara. Make it all official. Make it so no one can ever question that we're a family." Brianna looked at him, this man who kept offering her the world. Who kept choosing her despite every reason not to. Who saw her past as proof of strength rather than weakness. "Yes," she said. "Yes, let's do it. Let's make it official. Let's build the life we want without waiting for permission or worrying about timing. Let's just be brave and do it." "Really? Really? Marry me, Nathan Cole. Make me your wife. Make Amara your daughter. Make us yours in every way that matters." Nathan kissed her deeply, tasting rain and hope in the future they were claiming together. When they pulled apart, both were smiling through happy tears. 3 weeks, Nathan said. "Give me 3 weeks to arrange everything. Then we'll have a wedding. Simple, beautiful hours." 3 weeks, Brianna agreed. "I can't wait." They sat on the porch until the stars came out, hands linked, hearts full, believing completely in the life they were building together. Complications would come. More storms would rage. But they'd face everything together with love leading the way. And that, they both knew, was enough to weather anything. 6 months had passed since the wedding. 6 months since Nathan and Brianna had stood in the garden, surrounded by the handful of people they truly cared about and promised forever to each other. 6 months since Nathan had officially adopted Amara, whose last name was now Cole and whose face had glowed with joy when the judge made it legal. 6 months since their family became official in every sense of the word. The teaching center had opened 3 months ago and it was thriving. The old school building had been transformed into a bright, welcoming space where kids from all over the county came for free tutoring, homework help, and enrichment programs. Brianna had hired 3 other teachers, all passionate about education and serving their community. On any given afternoon, the center was full of laughter and learning and hope. Nathan worked from home most days now, making the 2 trips per month to the city that he promised the board. James had stepped fully into the CEO role and was excelling. The company was more profitable than ever, and Nathan was more relaxed than anyone had ever seen him. He discovered that he was better at vision and strategy when he wasn't drowning in day-to-day operations. That he made better decisions when he had a life outside of work. That success felt sweeter when he had people to share it with. On this particular Saturday morning, Nathan woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Amara's laughter from the kitchen. He smiled, stretching in bed, taking a moment to appreciate the life he'd built. The house that had once felt abandoned now felt alive in every corner. The garden Brianna tended had expanded, supplying vegetables to the teaching center's after-school snack program. Ginger had been joined by 2 more rescue cats because apparently one was never enough. The guest house had been converted into Nathan's office, a space where he could work without being completely separate from his family. He walked to the kitchen to find Brianna at the stove, wearing one of his old blue shirts and looking beautiful in the morning light. Amara was setting the table, chattering about the sleepover she was going to that night, her 3rd one this year. She'd blossomed in the stability of their home, making friends and joining activities and simply being a happy 9-year-old kid. "Morning," Nathan said, kissing Brianna's cheek and ruffling Amara's hair. "Morning, Dad," Amara said, the word still new enough to make Nathan's heart swell every time he heard it. "Mom's making your favorite pancakes." "I can see that. And smell that. Blueberry?" "With extra blueberries because you always eat all of them and leave none for us," Brianna teased. They sat down to breakfast as a family, the conversation flowing easily. Amara had a spelling test on Monday she was nervous about. Nathan had a board meeting via video call that afternoon. Brianna had 3 new students starting at the center next week, one of whom reminded her of herself at that age, hungry for knowledge and desperate for someone to believe in her potential. "I was thinking," Nathan said as they cleaned up after breakfast, "we should take a trip. Maybe for your birthday next month, Brianna. Somewhere you've always wanted to go." "I don't need to go anywhere. I have everything I want right here." "I know you don't need to. But maybe you want to? You've spent so much time taking care of everyone else. Let me take care of you for a change." Brianna considered this, then smiled. "What about the beach? I've always wanted to see the ocean. Amara has never been." "The ocean it is. I'll start planning." Later that afternoon, while Amara was at her friend's house for the sleepover, Nathan and Brianna took a walk through the property. They ended up at the stream, the same spot where Nathan had played as a child with his grandmother. They sat on the bank, feet dangling in the cool water, the late summer sun warm on their faces. "Do you ever miss it?" Brianna asked. "Your old life? The constant action and excitement of the city?" "Not even a little bit," Nathan said honestly. "I was so busy back then I never had time to think about whether I was actually happy. Now I know the difference. This is happy. This life with you and Amara. This is what I was searching for without knowing it. I'm glad you found us. Or we found you. However it happened. So am I. Best thing that ever happened to me finding you in my house that day. Best thing that ever happened to me was you not calling the police." Brianna laughed at the memory. "I was so terrified. I thought my life was over. Thought I'd lose Amara. Thought everything was falling apart. Instead, everything came together. Because kindness led," Nathan said. "Because we both chose to be open to possibility. Because love turned out to be real and worth fighting for." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the stream babble over rocks, watching the sunlight filter through the trees. Then Brianna said something that made Nathan's heart race. "I've been thinking about something. About maybe adding to our family." "Adding how?" "A baby. Maybe. If you're open to it. I know we have Amara and she's wonderful, but I keep thinking about how good you are with her. How natural. And I think you'd be an amazing father to a baby too. To our baby." Nathan stared at her, processing her words. "You want to have a baby? With me? Only if you want to. No pressure. I'm happy with our family exactly as it is. But if you ever thought about having biological children, I want you to know I'm open to it." Nathan pulled her close, his mind spinning with images of a tiny baby with Brianna's eyes and his smile. "I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Are you sure? You've already been through so much raising Amara alone. Are you ready to start over with a newborn? I'm not alone anymore. I have you. We'd be doing it together. As partners. As equals." "That's completely different from how it was with Amara." Brianna looked up at him. "So yes, I'm sure. I want to create a baby with you. Grow our family. Give Amara a sibling. Build something beautiful together from the ground up." "Then let's do it," Nathan said, kissing her deeply. "Let's grow our family. Let's add to this incredible life we're building." That evening they called James to share their news. His response made them both laugh. "About time," James said. "I've been wondering when you two would get around to that. Listen, when the baby comes, I want to be the godfather. I'm calling dibs now." "Dibs noted," Nathan said, grinning. They called Mrs. Patterson next, who cried happy tears and immediately started planning a baby shower. Then they called Brianna's mother, who they'd reconnected with 6 months ago, and who was thrilled at the prospect of another grandchild. When Amara came home from her sleepover the next day, they sat her down to tell her the news. "We're thinking about having a baby," Brianna explained, "which would make you a big sister. How would you feel about that?" Amara's face went through several expressions: surprise, consideration, then pure joy. "I'd be the best big sister ever. I'd teach them everything. I'd help with feedings and diaper changes. I'd read them stories and protect them from bullies and show them how to be brave." "I think you'd be an amazing big sister," Nathan said, pulling her into a hug. "The best." 2 months later, Brianna found out she was pregnant. The news came on a cold November morning, Nathan beside her as she took the test, both of them holding their breath as the result appeared. "Positive," Brianna whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "We're going to have a baby." Nathan kissed her, then kissed her belly, already full of love for the tiny life growing inside. "Our baby. Our family. Everything I ever wanted." They told Amara that afternoon, and she immediately started making plans. She'd paint the nursery. She'd help pick out baby names. She'd make a list of all the important things the baby needed to know. Nathan and Brianna let her plan, loving her enthusiasm and her absolute certainty that this baby would be the luckiest baby ever to have her as a sister. Christmas came, their first as a married family, and the house was full of warmth and love and joy. They invited Mrs. Patterson and James and a few close friends from the teaching center. They cooked together, laughed together, celebrated the year that had changed all their lives. As Nathan looked around the table at his wife and daughter and friends, at the life they'd built together, he felt overwhelming gratitude. A year ago he'd been miserable, lost, standing on a rooftop wondering if life was worth living. Now he had everything: a family that loved him, work that meant something, a home that felt alive, a baby on the way, purpose and joy and simple daily happiness that added up to a life worth treasuring. "Thank you," he said suddenly, raising his glass. "Thank you all for being here, for being part of our family, for making this house a home, for reminding me what matters, for showing me that kindness and hope and love always lead to beautiful things. To family," James added, raising his own glass. "To new beginnings," Mrs. Patterson said. "To love," Brianna whispered, her hand finding Nathan's under the table. "To everything," Amara declared. "To everything good and happy and perfect." They clinked glasses, celebrating not just the holiday but the journey that had brought them here. Celebrating second chances and unexpected connections and the magic that happens when people are brave enough to be kind. Later, after everyone had left and Amara was asleep, Nathan and Brianna stood on the porch, looking out at the property covered in a light dusting of snow. The garden was dormant now, resting until spring. The teaching center was closed for the holidays but would reopen in January, ready to welcome new students and new dreams. The baby growing in Brianna's belly kicked gently, a reminder of new life coming. "Are you happy?" Nathan asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Brianna said honestly. "A year ago, Amara and I were sleeping in a car, living day to day, scared and uncertain and just trying to survive. Now look at us. We have a home, a family, a future full of possibility. All because you chose kindness over anger. Chose to see us as people worthy of help rather than criminals deserving punishment. All because you were brave enough to keep fighting for your daughter. To do whatever it took to keep her safe. To treat a stranger's house like something precious. To open your heart when you had every reason to keep it closed." They stood together in the cold night air, wrapped in each other's warmth, believing completely in the life they'd built. Believing in love and hope and the power of choosing kindness. Believing that happy endings were real and possible and worth fighting for. "I love you," Brianna said. "Thank you for saving us." "I love you too," Nathan replied. "Thank you for saving me right back." Inside, Ginger meowed for attention. Amara called out in her sleep, probably dreaming of the baby sister or brother she'd have in a few months. The house creaked and settled, the sounds of a home well lived in and deeply loved. This was their life now. This was their family. This was their happy ending that was really just a beautiful beginning. And it was perfect,